Setting up, looking to take a shot, floats it deep downfield, diving catch at the 21 by Silas Bolden.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Wide open and right in is Zane Pope. A brilliant opening drive by Hayner and the Bulldogs.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Jordan, that's going to be a big run. 30, 20, forget it. Louisville on the board first here at Fenway.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
And how about this? Coming the other way is BYU, taken away by Bywater, and he will take it to the house. Give me the football and 75 yards on the return for Bywater.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
So first down and long. Can it score? Ton of running room for Frank Gore Jr. To the house for a touchdown. 64 yards for Southern Miss.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go, another week of 365 Sports. We appreciate all of you right now, those of you in the chat. Also, the text line, which is 254-339-1122. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We are so happy that you are here, and we're happy to be here with you. A lot of news today. We'll have Haynes King, former A&M quarterback, who's headed to Georgia Tech at 3:20. We'll have a writer who covers Oregon on Bo Nix coming back. We'll also look at a couple of things differently today. The World Cup, the match yesterday between Argentina and France was just epic, and we'll have Will Parchment on to kind of discuss that. Sam Bradshaw breaks down the bowl games at 5. David Hellman on the Cowboys, who were stunned in Jacksonville. Paul's top 5, a bunch to get to today. We'll also highlight one of the state championship programs in the final second on Friday evening as we wrap up the show. Let's start with this. The two best players in the Big 12 this year, and I know it's always arguable, both of them are headed to the pros. Bijan Robinson makes it official. He is headed to the NFL, and he will be, I don't think any doubt, the top running back in the NFL draft, although the running back position is somewhat a little bit strange with the way the NFL looks at running backs. And then also Max Duggan is headed as well to the NFL draft. Not a surprise. He's got some work to do with whatever TCU can do, maybe a game or two left, but he's also headed. There's his Frog Nation letter.
Well, he's never going to be as hot as he is right now. I mean, maybe. I mean, like, he could very well come back and use that last year of eligibility and, you know, shoot up the charts. But being the Heisman Trophy runner-up out of nowhere, nobody had him on their Heisman Trophy long list to begin the year. It was not going to be that, and that's because they knew he was going to be in a quarterback battle to begin the season, a quarterback battle that initially he lost. So right now he's hot, and he needs to ride that wave as much as he can, because it's about that coin right now and making as much as you can while you're still able to. So yeah, I think it sucks for TCU that they're going to have to, kind of do this all over again, but maybe they should feel good because Chandler Morris beat him out in the first place, and then he just got so hot that they didn't have a choice but to keep him in later on.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised to see that. wasn't connecting Max Duggan with the NFL in any way, shape, or form. I didn't think he was going to come back either. I figured he'd go test the NFL waters, but I wasn't 100% sure. You see some of these guys that are more than happy to continue playing out their college careers for as long as they possibly can, but I don't know, part of me was kind of relieved that he did it. Not relieved because I'm worried about playing Max Duggan. I don't have to worry about that, nor do I really care about Baylor having to play him again and seeing him play again. I think, it'd be good for college football in a way, but I think it's good that there's not like this delay. Like they can just have this great run that they're on, have whatever conclusion they have, and then, start anew next year with Chandler Morris or whoever it's going to end up being, and he doesn't try to come back and relive this and let's not try to win the national, if they don't win the national title, let's now try to run it back. We always hear that, run it back, and I'm kind of glad that for once somebody's not running it back. They're just like, hey, this is a hell of a year. Let's close this bad boy on out as best we can, and then, I'm going to go see what I can do in the pros, and, there's other options in other leagues too, and I have no idea what to think about as far as his pro stock goes, what he's eyeing or what he's hoping for or what the NFL even thinks of him. I'm sure we'll get a lot of that information over the coming weeks. But, yeah, I wasn't totally caught off guard by that and happy for Max Duggan. What a year it's turned into with no expectations other than for himself and maybe what some of the coaches had for him as far as what they expected his role to be. But he's been great and, maximized his time under center for TCU and still has some time to be able to do even more with it. And then Bijan Robinson, probably the worst kept secret in the NFL draft was him going pro early. Not that it was a secret per se, but, I'm sure he knew for some time what he was going to do and those around him knew. But I think everybody on the outside, whether you ever even talked to Bijan Robinson or watched him play for more than 5 minutes, if you knew a little bit about him, you knew he was probably going to be a pro pretty soon. So This is not surprising in any way. And, I know DeMarvion Overshown also declared as well. I believe that was yesterday. And so we kind of knew that Texas was going to have some of those bowl sit-outs. So, yeah, that was about on cue.
But Bijan, I don't know. No question he'll be the top running back in the NFL draft. But then you start to see something. He's very special. And really, you look at him and his time at Texas, this is the first year they've made a bowl game with him, right? Am I right about that? I believe so. And so he, fantastic player, great young man, and now he heads into the NFL. Duggan, of course, has very much some work to do with the semifinals coming up and then the chance for a championship appearance as well. Also, here's some notes for the transfer portal. Our first guest was in the transfer portal. He's now headed to Georgia Tech.
They were 7-3 his freshman year.
Okay. Is that his COVID year? Haynes King is committed to transferring to Georgia Tech.
I like this for him. I like Brent Key. And the way that they played after Brent Key took over at Georgia Tech should make Tech fans feel, at least optimistic about the future. They, Jeff Sims got hurt. Zach Pyron got hurt. There's another quarterback whose name I forget, but Haynes King is going to have a great opportunity to go there and win the job. And really, there's nowhere to go for Georgia Tech but up for the most part. And I like this for him. I think this is a nice move.
We're going to pretty much say we like every move that's made. I feel like with these transfers, and it's cool. We'll see. I'm not going to be like, yeah, this is a great fit and blah, blah, blah. I really have no idea. They're obviously in transition, and we just saw Jeff Sims head out the door. Let's be honest, guys. Last time we saw Haynes King, it was not good. Yeah. He's surrounded by 4- and 5-star talent, and, A&M as a whole had a lot of really talented players, and particularly on offense, couldn't really scrape anything together outside of Devin Achane and Muhammad to some lesser extent, or to, fewer and far between, but to some extent him as well. But they really rode their defense, and Haynes King sometimes looked like he didn't belong at that level. Sometimes he looked like he could hang, and I wonder, just kind of how damaged he is. But he's a coach's kid. I know he comes from a tough pedigree, and I'm sure, he'll be fine and have cleared the slate and be ready to go with a new opportunity. But, yeah, that was not necessarily a place I was eyeing for him or really thinking too much about. Quite frankly, I wasn't really thinking too much about him. Kind of in general, he sort of got lost in the overall quarterback shuffle. But, yeah, it's on the surface, a lot of talent that hasn't been maximized just yet. Obviously a smart guy, so we'll see what happens. But that's an intriguing move for a new Georgia Tech squad.
Well, and then, of course, Jeff Sims, he's on his way to Lincoln, where they have Casey Thompson, who appears to be coming back to play for Matt Rule, and then he now will take over, be a part of the roster in Lincoln with Nebraska. So that's another one of the transfer players. And, you know, I don't know. I know about him. He's going to Lincoln, and Matt Rule he's had a pretty good run, by the way, since he was hired with some transfers and also trying to secure a pretty good class that some of them with the departure and attrition of any time you have a coaching change.
Well, I would say that of the three quarterbacks that are going to compete for that job right now, Jeff Sims, Casey Thompson, and Brock Purdy, nobody's given you the,
Brock's in the NFL.
Chubba Purdy, that none of them have given the impression that they could take this thing over and really go places. Plus, they have a new coach and a new offensive system. And Jeff Sims was more highly recruited than Purdy was. I know because they were both committed to the same place at the start. And I don't know about Casey Thompson. They're probably about the same. So we'll see. I mean, like, if they can tap into that talent that a lot of people saw in Jeff Sims before he was at Georgia Tech, then great. If not, he's a depth piece there, and he has 1 year of eligibility. But, what do they have to lose at quarterback right now, Smokey, if you're Nebraska?
Casey Thompson can tease you. Mm-hmm. At times he can be brilliant. I think a lot of problems that he had at Texas and also even in Lincoln this year is he's really rarely been behind a really good offensive line as far as time, protection, whatever. He can tease you. And then, of course, he could also, like a lot of quarterbacks, he can throw the bad pick. But I thought for the most part he was good this year for them. And when he wasn't in the game, there was a big difference because no one else could really throw the football.
When I first saw this, I thought, good for them, but I also questioned why with Casey Thompson they made this. I figured if they got a transfer quarterback, it would be like a big splash, like no doubt about it, like, oh, that's why they're going to move on and start with somebody new, because to me, Jeff Sims isn't clearly that much better than what they already have. I mean, it's not like they brought in like Tua, not Tua, but DJU, and you're like, okay, well, then clearly they're trying to upgrade there. This is more of like, all right, so there's going to be a quarterback competition, and that's probably what they need, with Purdy and Thompson and all that. So, yeah, I was kind of surprised. Just wasn't thinking too much about Jeff Sims and Nebraska being a connection. But, I mean, Matt Rule knows what he's doing. They seem to be on a pretty good run in recruiting, like you said. He was dealing with injury a lot last year. I mean, missed a bunch of games, and the numbers he did put up were not all that impressive. But, again, he wasn't entirely healthy and missed a lot of time. So, in a transition year where, you kind of just knew that Georgia Tech was in a lame duck situation there for a while and kind of heading into it with Jeff Collins. There was a lot of moving pieces and a lot that wasn't necessarily going in their way, especially with Jeff Sims. So you give him a sturdy coaching, staff and give him a new start and give him hopefully some health. And, he's obviously got some talent, so it'll make for an interesting quarterback competition. But, yeah, I don't think that it's like, oh, well, there's Nebraska's starting quarterback next year, which is just what's kind of puzzling, because if you bring in a guy, you would typically, through the portal, think that it's going to be the guy, right? So when I saw that, knowing Casey Thompson and to a lesser extent Purdy was there, I was just like, okay, that's interesting. Somebody's obviously not going to play a lot, so that's curious, but, that'll make for a competitive room.
Well, and I would think this, after spring, somebody's going to leave out of those three. And, like, if you're Chubba Purdy and you don't win the job again, is he the guy who jumps in the portal? Then you kind of guard yourself. Plus, let's face it, the news that Nebraska was concerned about at quarterback this week was a legacy player who's the nephew of their offensive line coach and the son of a great that is – the number one player available for 2024.
Yeah, the only thing is if you're Jeff Sims, you're going to go do that whole thing where you don't win the job in spring and then transfer again before ever having played, like that. Casey Thompson's already transferred. So, I mean, that's going to be an interesting room to watch. But, yeah, I mean, Dominic Raiola, that news over the weekend, I mean, for the down the line, obviously that's not going to matter.
Long way to go.
Yeah, that's not going to matter next year in any way. But down the line, that was potentially some massive news for them, but long way to go, like you said. But, yeah, interesting that Jeff Sims is making that move. All
right. Also, let's get to a couple of others, and then Haynes King will join us in a second. Here's a name that I saw up on the boards in SicEm365.com. Wide receiver Jack Besh, from LSU. There were thoughts that Baylor was in that conversation. He makes the commitment to go and play for TCU.
There's a good chance they get Chris Marshall, who's from A&M as well. And they also got JoJo Earl from Alabama this weekend. So they're losing Quentin Johnston. You know that at TCU. So they've got to make up for that somehow. And JoJo Earl is a 5-star player recruited by Alabama just a year ago. And Besh is a pretty well thought of player from LSU who's probably more of a, I don't want to say a possession guy, but maybe a little bit more, not like break the whole game wide open like Quentin Johnston is. So, but they're replacing some talent there. TCU's, again, ride the hot streak. Get as many guys as you can right now while people are excited to come to Fort Worth.
Yeah, Craig, we saw a little bit of that name. And of course, Baylor needs wide receivers. And so that would have been a nice hit. They didn't get him.
Saw a very little amount of his name. I know there's, a little bit of buzz about him, but it's not like he is coming off like a special year or anything. But yeah, he's a guy who's coveted by some to ramp up their receiving core. And, Baylor was one of those schools, but TCU is just a hotter brand right now. And, I don't know what the overall pull was. Outside of just what's obvious is that they're in the college football playoff and they're riding a hot streak and they're, hot in the portal right now. But yeah, that was certainly a loss for the green and gold and a big gain for the purple Frogs. And, they can really pick up even more steam and more momentum if they go out and they get a win against Michigan. Just imagine what that would feel like for that team and for that program. But obviously we got to wait a little while for that. So yeah, nice little win for them in the portal. And they've only picked up like 4 guys, I think, total, but it seems like it's been a lot. It seems like it's been like 20 guys because of just sort of the way it's come across and because of some of the names like a Chris Marshall or a JoJo Earl that if you follow them during recruiting, you're like, oh, wow. And so, yeah, Sonny Dykes is taking full advantage of their momentum, and, they are going to lose a lot of proven name brand talent, not just Quentin Johnston, but others in that receiving corps. So, yeah, not surprised that they're attacking that and striking while the iron's hot.
All right, and there's, of course, National Signing Day coming up on Wednesday. Grayson and Craig will have a full show on Wednesday morning, then we'll do what we do in the afternoon. Bo Nix. We're not going to get to all the transfers because there's others we'll add, but Bo Nix, huge decision for Oregon. He's on his way back. He'll be back for another year. Had a phenomenal year for Oregon. Was in the Heisman discussion for a while, and he's back for another year. James Crepia, will join us from the Oregonian on that decision.
Yeah, it's big. I don't know if it had anything to do with Dante Moore flipping from Oregon to UCLA, if he thinks he can play there better. UCLA got a transfer quarterback this weekend as well. I do think it certainly affects DJU's decision in that UCLA appears to have gotten a transfer quarterback and Bo Nix is staying. So those are two schools you can cross off for DJU.
Yeah, Bo Nix, that's not surprising. I think that, we were doing some top 5s and whatnot, and, Oregon will get mentioned as like, is Bo Nix transferring? Because that's going to matter on, who ends up going there or who could potentially eye Oregon. And sure enough, he's not. After, a tremendous year up in Eugene, really shook a lot of the Auburn demons off and really found himself playing at a high level and playing well. And so, to see him run it back, as much as I was just talking about that a few minutes ago with Duggan, I actually do think it's cool to see Nix do it because, there is the feeling of there's more to squeeze out there in Eugene. So, yeah, big-time decision for the Ducks. Obviously, losing Dante Moore was big as well. That's a top 3, top 5 player, depending on where you look as far as the rankings go. And now he'll be heading to Westwood, but you can't really blame him for that decision either with Chip Kelly and company. And they're obviously trying to replace Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So makes sense from all angles. And, yeah, that's big for Oregon, who's going to get some serious heat this offseason in a good way because of that one return and whatever else they end up doing.
Yeah, Dante Moore headed, again, to UCLA, not Oregon. Now, this was posted. Nick Harris, who's on – I think 247 posted this up earlier, and this has been simmering. Austin Novosad, the quarterback from Dripping Springs, who, of course, committed to Baylor, has been committed for quite some time. This is from Nick Harris. Is this developing Oregon's plan B at the quarterback position, already in motion, with a report of an in-home visit with Baylor commit and Dripping Springs star, 4-star quarterback Austin Novosad. He, as of now, is committed to Baylor. Ohio State took a run at him. Others have taken a run at him. Texas A&M has taken a run at him. Now, Oregon, we know, and we've kind of had this discussed it just for a sliver, a little bit. Grayson Grunhafer discussed it with us on Friday that Oregon has been hot after, and who wouldn't be, after Austin Novosad, the quarterback at Dripping Springs.
Well, I love being called a Plan B. I mean, it's true, he is, but I mean, that would, for one, dissuade me, at least initially. But then again, I don't know what kind of NIL monies Oregon's offering or, what kind of dreams he has, but very clearly the Plan B, and if not more distant than that, whereas with Baylor, he's been Plan A this entire cycle. I mean, the entire cycle, he's basically been their Plan A, and I say basically only because I don't know if there was maybe a guy in like the first week of the season of recruiting that they were on a little bit hotter, but basically he's been the guy the entire time. So, if he values that, then he's heading to Baylor and signing on Wednesday. If he's, more open-minded, I mean, clearly he's had some various decisions along the way to make. I mean, it would be a crushing loss and waste of time for this entire staff and for Sean Bell if they were to lose him. Caught word of this a little bit, last week, and didn't emphasize it too much because there's a lot of moving parts. But, I mean, that's why I'm glad signing day is coming up on Wednesday, just to have some finality on certain stories and certain loose ends. And this is probably number 1, 2, and 3. I'm so sick of hearing about it at this point. I really am. And it's no disrespect, but I'm just so tired of the roller coaster that let me off of it on Wednesday, and wherever he goes, fine. But, man, I'm done with it.
I'll just give an example of why Plan B is bad and then saying it is bad. Hey, Smokey, you want to go to dinner tonight?
Maybe.
Hey, Craig, you want to go to dinner tonight? Smokey can't go. Why didn't you ask me first?
Well, but that's the writer writing that. That's the reporter saying that, and somebody probably said it.
But it's true, though. We just talked about Dante Moore. It's true. It's a Plan B, so yeah.
Well, all right. Haynes King, he was, of course, a state championship quarterback at Longview, played at Texas A&M, entered the transfer portal, visited Arizona State, visited Georgia Tech. Haynes King joins us now on 365 Sports. He's made his commitment to play at Georgia Tech. Haynes, first of all, thanks for your time. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and Paul Catalina. How stressful, or was it, the transfer portal and kind of making this decision?
It was a little weird and different. Some days it was just chill, nothing much happening, and other days it was hectic. Most schools calling you, just hitting you up, seeing how everything's going and stuff like that. And other days it'd just be cold. It'd just be on and off. So I guess that would, that part was stressful about it, because you're looking at schools, you're like, well, do they want me? Do they not want me? One day they're hitting me up, the other day they're not. So,
Haynes, it's such a strange thing for players now in college to, I mean, it's great that you have the ability to do this and play right away, but I know it's got to be stressful because when you were recruited, you thought that was it. That's what you hoped, that was where you're going to be. And then especially at your position, like you said, it can get real hot and cold real quick. What's the last couple months been like for you to deal with all that and coming to grips with moving to Georgia and all those things?
It was definitely a learning experience. My dad, our plan, as you'd said before, was, I committed to A&M coming out of high school. Thought that was going to be my home, always my home. And along the way, I did learn a lot of stuff, and a lot of good football being played. But we felt like our best decision was trying to go find an opportunity to play somewhere else, and we ended up choosing Georgia Tech after those two visits, and that's where we are now.
So, Haynes, why was Georgia Tech the spot for you? What was it about Brent Key and obviously, shaking things up there, getting a new era going, and obviously you're a big part of getting that started. What was it about the Yellow Jackets, the program, and Brent Key that enticed you?
Well, Brent Key right now, he's I guess you'd say he kind of had like a 10-week trial already with being an interim. So right there, you can see most of the plan already being in place. So, I mean, some schools you'll see like they're talking, hey, this is our plan, this is what we're going to do, but it's not quite in place because while being recruited, you got to look at certain stuff like, hey, are they actually doing it, or is this just the sales pitch that they're trying to do? But I felt like they've already done it. They were always authentic and straightforward with us, me and my family. And the people that Brent Key is surrounding himself with at that facility, in any type of level, it doesn't matter if it's education, strength staff, nutrition, all that. The people he has around himself is the same. They're going to be straight shooters. They're for the athletes there, trying to put everybody in the best situation possible. And along the way, Georgia Tech, they're going to play some big-time games. They're going to play the Clemsons of the world and all of that. And then they have a lot of rich tradition there, an elite education as well. And it's just everything just felt like it fit in place.
Haynes, was there any similarities at all from when you were being recruited at Longview High School compared to the transfer portal?
It was a little it was a lot of similarity, actually. The only difference, like I said, it's some days are hot and cold, and it happens a lot quicker in the transfer portal. Have to make your decision a lot quicker because everybody's in the transfer portal, and those days are going to close, and it's almost like musical chairs. You're going to end up having to find a seat sooner or later. If you don't, you're just going to be stuck out there. So that's the scary part. But other than that, most of everything was similar to getting recruited out of high school. But I guess you'd say on trips like that, when you're taking visits, they cut through most of the stuff that they would try to introduce to a high schooler that a high schooler doesn't know. So like I've been at A&M for 3 years. Like they don't have to tell me how college and how classes are going to go. Like you're going to have to show up. You're going to have to do this and that. And so that part they can skip through the stuff and just get down into all the informational stuff. I see. Those are the only two differences I see.
Your dad's a coach and you've grown up in football. So does that help you in recruiting to have not only a sounding board, but also you've grown up and you know how coaches talk to each other, you know, the secret code, so to speak. You can kind of see through, people who are, like you said before, who's really interested in you and who's just calling to make sure you're on some list of theirs somewhere.
Yeah, being a coach's kid, I feel like definitely allows you to see which people are actually genuine and authentic to what they want out of you and what they want for you. But other than that, everything else was the same. He was just being a dad, just wants the best for me. But I'd say that plays a big part of it. Seeing through a lot of the people that that you believe that wants the best for you and the family. Yes, sir.
You obviously, Haynes, were in a high-profile situation and played some big-time teams and big-time games and a lot of attention. Just what did you learn about yourself? I mean, you got a lot of attention when you were, with the Lobos, winning a state title and all of that. But, I mean, it's easy to say. Like, obviously, that's a step up going to the college ranks. So through the good, the bad, the otherwise, just what did you learn about Haynes King?
Well, everybody says, you're going to learn a lot out of yourselves when you're going through a lot of adversity. And I believe I played through a lot of injuries this year. And I felt like I was doing that just because I was playing for more things other than myself. I wanted to put the team in a good situation and just play for them, So I'd play through a lot of stuff that I didn't have to, but I was going to do that anyway. And I'd never quit on the team. I was going to play throughout the whole season and just figure out what happened after,
Haynes, your father told me earlier this year when I spoke with him about what his team was doing. Of course, they got into the semifinals, but he said kind of watching from afar and seeing what was going on with you and A&M, the ups and downs, the roller coaster was one of the hardest things he's ever been through. How often did you discuss that? Because he's got probably parents, players that he coaches that sometimes aren't real happy with what's going on either. How much of advice did he give you?
It wasn't too much, actually. I mean, going through it, he was being a dad. He's going to be supportive. The main deal was, find a way to get on that field, find a way to stay healthy, and finish the season. Then we'll talk about it, and we'll see about the situation afterwards. So during the season, my main focus, was finishing the season with my teammates. Still keep in contact with them, but finish the season with the teammates because Coach Fisher, he likes to say you only have one full year of each team, you know, and I just wanted to be with the boys, finish with the teammates. Then next was to graduate, and then we were going to see about everything after that. Reconfigure everything and see which is the best situation for me.
So you went to Tempe. I think this weekend was a whirlwind, right? You flew into Tempe to visit Arizona State. Dillingham is now their head coach. Then you came back to College Station to graduate. Then what? You flew into Atlanta to visit Georgia Tech. What was that timeline, and how tired are you just of that?
I flew in Tempe Tuesday, got back Thursday afternoon, and then graduated, walked that Friday morning, then was on the plane an hour later to go into Atlanta, and then came back from Atlanta around Sunday afternoon. But it was a grind, but I knew I had to do it because most of the visits and stuff, they were going to close the 18th, and I knew I had to make my decision soon. Like I said earlier, with the portal being almost like musical chairs, and sooner or later I was going to have to find a chair to sit in where I was going to be out, and I definitely didn't want that. But I knew the two guys that were going after me. We held a prior relationship from when they were recruiting me out of high school. So I knew I could trust them and what they were telling me. And my main focus was trying to find the best situation for me. And I believe I did here at Georgia Tech.
Haynes King with us, Georgia Tech transfer quarterback with us on 365 Sports.
Haynes, just how relieved do you feel to have this decision made, to know where you're going to be playing, to know that there's a new start ahead? I mean, just all those different things. And congrats on the graduation, by the way.
Yes, sir. Thank you. But it was definitely a big relief. One, finding a new home and being able to have a fresh new start, you know, someplace else. See different scenes, and sometimes that's what people need.
Haynes, how did the last conversation go between you and Jimbo Fisher?
It went good. I mean, I called him well before I even entered my name in the portal. He was actually off recruiting. I was going to go see him face to face. But you know, with me being a coach's kid, I'm always going to close everything out right. If I decided to go or not, you know, I'm gonna close things out right. Try to go see him face to face. He was out recruiting, so I ended up calling him because I wanted him to know before I ended up entering it. But it was good. He was supportive. He always has been. And I mean, I felt like we had a good relationship when I was there, and he definitely taught me a lot of ball. And hell, I wouldn't be here without him, you know.
So everyone knows the expectations in College Station were as sky high as maybe ever before, and it did not work out. It was a very, very disappointing season across the board. How hard was that inside the locker room, inside the program from week to week?
I mean, it's frustrating, but you never. I'd rather having expectations too high than people not really care about you, you know. Because that means you're doing things right, and you have the chance to play some big games and win a lot of football games. But it was definitely frustrating for the whole staff and players in that locker room. But I felt like everybody found out about ourselves because half of our games, really most of them, came down to the last drive. There were one possession games came down to the last drive, and that I feel like everybody kind of can see that fight in us. We never gave up, and hell, even the last game of the season against LSU, we ended up beating a top 10 opponent. LSU being a great team at that time, and it just shows like what our character is about of that team. Like Coach Fisher, he was always saying, like, you know, people see the actual character in you when stuff's going wrong. Or you just gonna give up and quit, or you gonna to fight your way out of it. And I believe as a team, we fought our way out of it, and we did a hell of a job.
Haynes, how much in the transfer portal today is even NIL discussed, since it's such a fast timeline? Is that even brought up?
It wasn't really brought up with us. At Georgia Tech, it was almost brought up as a business opportunity. Their big deal over there, same as A&M, is the networking. The networking you can get off of that, and also as well as the NIL at Georgia Tech, they have a little deal with internships that a lot of their athletes can get with that institution being a lot of business driven and engineering driven things there. So it was kind of cool and kind of different in the fact that everything was almost like networking based driven, and it definitely will give you a lot of opportunities because they're trying to set yourself up for life after football. So in 10, 20, 30 years, like, how are you going to be living? If you use all of the opportunities and stuff that they give you over there at Georgia Tech, you should be living very healthy.
Haynes, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Congratulations. Good luck in Atlanta with Georgia Tech. Appreciate it. Love watching what you did with the Lobos and also your time at Texas A&M. We appreciate you and enjoy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Haynes King, Georgia Tech quarterback, Longview Lobo, won a state title his junior year, and then, of course, a four-star that ended up at Texas A&M and transferred in the portal and now playing for the Yellow Jackets in Brent Key. When we come back, we will hear from James Crepea. He covers Oregon. Bo Nix made the decision. He's coming back for another year. We'll have that. And we will touch on many college football stories throughout the next hour and 2 hours and 30 minutes. And this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace, just off of I-35, just off the access road, the road to Loop 340 and also Highway 6. They've got a machine inside their business that is unbelievably good, elite, state-of-the-art, an MRI machine that will help find out what your doctor is trying to find out of why you hurt, whether it's in your neck, your back, your knee, wherever it is, a muscle, a ligament, or something else. Ideal MRI will find it. They'll get evidence, let you know, let your doctor know, and then you make decisions going forward. And maybe the good news is there's not something bad. It's just, you'll have to just take time to heal whatever hurts. Ideal MRI with Dr. Rob Maxey, a great staff specialist and techs that will help you find the problem and save you a ton of money, $497 or less every single time at idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Bo Nix, one of the bigger stories in college football over the weekend. We've discussed those who are leaving for the NFL, those who transferred, and then in Bo Nix's case, he's coming back another year. James Crepea joins us, the Oregonian, covers Oregon for us, for us, for everyone, but also with us on 365 Sports. James, thanks for your time as always. Was this a surprise that he's coming back, or was this expected?
No, well, depending on that's a matter of timing of when you ask that question. Was it a surprise a year ago? Was it a surprise 6 months ago? Was it a surprise 3 months ago? Yes. Was it a surprise 1 month ago? Not so much. And was it a surprise a week or two ago? No. Things really shifted as the year went on for Bo. Obviously, as his year, I mean, he had a career season at Oregon and had tremendous statistics. And if not for the ankle injury, and obviously the Heisman's kind of become a team award as much as an individual award, but be it as it may, was certainly in the running for potentially to be invited to New York, certainly for all conference contention. Didn't end up getting those things, in part because of the injury, in part because of losses, and that happens. But he had a career season. And on one hand, you say, well, in that case, then why don't you go pro? I mean, can it be any better? Like, why not go off that? But he's going to be an interesting test case. Him and, ironically, Michael Penix Jr. at Washington are both players who had career years off of injuries, both in the Pac-12 and the old Pac-12 North and at rival schools, where a strong case is going to be made. These are going to be two of the biggest test cases of this new era of college football, where two quarterbacks with tremendous seasons are coming back. And I think in part, you'd be foolish to not acknowledge that it's probably in part because they're going to earn more in NIL by coming back than if they entered the NFL draft and got drafted anywhere on day 3 of the NFL draft.
Do you think, I mean, did he get a draft advisory or whatever they call it? Did he get a report on himself?
He didn't this year because players at that age aren't even eligible to ask.
Okay.
Because Nix was being a fourth-year junior, and that you had the extra year due to the 2020 season. All those players, him and every other player at Oregon and everywhere across the country, just like a year ago, those super seniors who were, well, they ran out of eligibility, but the quote-unquote juniors of a year ago were automatically entered into the draft. Well, it's the same thing for the juniors this year. It's all over again. They're automatically in the draft. So they're not declared. If a player in that case has that free COVID year for colloquial purposes, if they say, oh, well, they're declaring for the draft. No, they're not declaring for the draft. They're already in the draft. It's the players who are turning back, like Nix, who are opting out of the draft to come back to school for their final year and utilize the additional year of eligibility. So he didn't even he couldn't have asked for an evaluation in that perspective. That said, like our scouts at practices, like they are everywhere, and I'm sure he got some feedback. Yeah. And I can say that, some folks around him, certainly were well aware. They're not foolish. They're well aware that this was not a quarterback who was going to get drafted in the first 3 rounds. And once you start talking rounds 4 through 7, the money's about the same. The guarantee is less the later you go, but the gross total, if you make it through, whether it's salary, bonus, what have you, is about the same. So grand scheme of things, I say it could prove to be a more lucrative option for some of these guys to actually come back and play college football for an additional year. And I think you're going to start to see that in select cases across the country more and more.
Yeah, it's crazy how much of a game changer that has become potentially. It's going to be fascinating to watch how that sort of sorts out quarterbacks moving forward. You're absolutely right on that. There were obviously, I don't know how many people predicted a year ago when he transferred to Oregon that we'd be having this conversation right now where him coming back is massive news, but it is, and that's because of the terrific year that he had, put up crazy numbers. Oregon obviously had a great run, and now because of his return, they're going to be positioned as well as anybody you would think heading into the next year. How did he ingratiate himself along the way, and when did it start to kind of click how special this partnership could be for he and Oregon?
Well, it was clear early on that he had definitely put himself in position to win the job. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, go back a year ago, and when he committed to transfer to Oregon from Auburn, given that he was coming off the injury, given that he had obviously had a reputation that was pretty well established from his days at Auburn of, some incredible backyard style plays and some big moments and big wins, including against Oregon, as a first college game, but also those just mind-numbingly crazy mistakes. And you go, well, in that case, they're bringing in this transfer, and this is a fan base who is super jazzed about Ty Thompson, who was the highest-ranked quarterback recruit from the high school ranks the program had ever had. And who's going to win the job? And are they just going to hand it to Bo? And is it going to be a real competition? Well, he showed up, kept the low profile really the whole way through, to be quite honest, even through the season, as low as it could be given the level of performance he was having. But throughout spring practice, it became clear that, all right, this is a legitimate competition, but Bo's ahead. And then we got into fall camp, and they're like, all right, let's just call this what it is. Yeah, he established himself quickly. He won over his teammates, and obviously with the performance on the field, that helps. And by the end of the season now, like you say, now it's huge news that he's coming back because of what he did on the field, how he carried himself. But, it's the things that – plenty of things behind the scenes, guys, but, especially the game like, all right, Washington, he gets hurt late, but coming back the next week to play against Utah and win that game, that meant a lot. It may not mean in the grand scheme of things, but at the time, it meant a lot. This was still a team who was alive to make it to the Pac-12 championship, beating a Utah team who had flat out embarrassed Oregon twice last season. To come back on one foot and win that game against a team who later, obviously goes on to play for the Pac-12 championship and win it for the second straight year and is playing in a Rose Bowl. Yeah, at the time, it kept Oregon's season alive. It kept its opportunity alive to compete for a Pac-12 title. Obviously, they fell short of it. But those are the kinds of things that, when you talk about leadership and all those intangibles and those sorts of things that win over teammates, that's the things that Nix did throughout the course of the year, but especially through the course of the season.
How much did his return have anything to do with Dante Moore flipping to UCLA, or the two seemingly unrelated?
Well, you have to use a little bit of common sense combined with what you hear from Moore. And according to ESPN, and Moore spoke to them earlier today with his decommitment and flipped to UCLA this morning, Moore says that wasn't a factor. Now, having said that, he visited UCLA before Nix made this news, last night. Having said that, were there probably certain things that were, known behind the scenes or to a select group of people before what got out there publicly? Probably. You'd be a little naive to think, no, like basically, if you're saying from Dante Moore's perspective, what do you want him to say? Yeah, I didn't want to compete against somebody who is obviously going to be the starter again. That doesn't look great. Now he's going to UCLA where there's absolutely not a returning starter because DTR is moving on. Yes, they landed a commitment from I think it was a Kent State transfer or something, but be that as it may. So that guy, even if it is the case, Dante Moore is not going to say, oh yeah, no, I didn't want to go there because of that. I think you have to take it a little bit at face value in the idea of, yeah, he committed to an offensive coordinator in Kenny Dillingham who helped Bo Nix have a tremendous year, and he landed a head coaching job at Arizona State. You combine that with whatever UCLA was selling by way of Chip Kelly and all those things, and yes, the formality that was UCLA going to the Big Ten. And it's not just because, oh, well, Big Ten's better than Pac-12 or they aren't better than the Pac-12 in a given year. You're talking about a player from Detroit and going, and in all likelihood, we don't know exactly what the Big Ten schedule is going to look like the next couple of years, but we have a pretty good idea. Realistically, that could mean playing at Michigan and at Michigan State during the course of Dante Moore's career if he plays even 3 years at UCLA. It would be naive to suggest that had no impact at all. So I do think that UCLA changing conferences helped the cause. I do think that Oregon losing its offensive coordinator probably changed things. Again, that's just Moore saying it himself. But as far as whether or not the Knicks return played into it, Moore says it didn't. Anyone who's even remotely skeptical says, oh, come on. I mean, you got to be a little bit realistic there. But that's neither here nor there. Ultimately, in the short term, UCLA had a tremendous player who they're going to get for this season and for the next couple of years. And for Oregon's purposes, they've got a guy for one more year who they feel great about, but they will have to add to the quarterback room because right now they've only got Nix and Thompson. And whether it's out of the prep ranks, which is obviously going to be hard to pull off with 2 days to signing day, or out of the transfer portal, Oregon's going to have to add another quarterback who absolutely is not going to be the starter.
James, what are the thoughts on Will Stein and the departure of Kenny Dillingham?
Well, I don't think it was a surprise to folks that Dillingham would be on the move potentially. Now, that said, it wasn't like he was dying to get out or looking for just about anything. No, the Arizona State job is legitimately his dream job, and it comes open, and how can you knock a guy for that kind of an opportunity when it comes knocking? So that in and of itself was not a surprise to folks. The addition of Will Stein, someone who obviously from a geographic standpoint and all that is someone who the Oregon fan base is starting to learn a little bit more about since he's been hired. But having said that, someone who, to me, makes a lot of sense from a scheme fit standpoint, has relationships with a couple of members of the staff, runs stylistically speaking, not the same scheme and offense, but similar to what Oregon was just running, and obviously had a tremendous amount of success at UTSA, both as a position coach and as coordinator this year. So when you put all that together, yeah, a young coach who's sometimes you get guys who they don't have to be established with resumes that are 10 and 15 and 20 years long in order to be a successful hire. I think Oregon made a hire who's probably one of the best young coordinators in college football potentially, and they might get him on the come up and an opportunity to have a guy around for a minute, a younger coach who, yeah, they'd like to have around, as long as that success is rolling. And it helps, when you inherit good players, that helps. He walked into a situation like that at UTSA a little bit, obviously had a tremendous amount of success there and helped develop some players who made them really successful the past couple of years at the receiver position, at the quarterback position. Well, it helps Will Stein that he's inheriting one of the better quarterbacks returning in college football, and certainly in a Pac-12 that, quite frankly, is going to have a lot of returning quarterbacks who are pretty good. We're talking about Nix, but like I said, Penix or plenty of others. This league has a lot of really good quarterbacks coming back.
James, one more thing, and then appreciate your time on all things Bo Nix, et cetera, and everything else in between, is that the Pac-12 still does not have a TV deal. It appears as if that might be around the corner. We know what's changed since maybe the last time we spoke with you, or what's pretty much remained the same. If, in fact, the deal is not what Oregon wants, is there any chance that they would sign it with any kind of lengthy terms as far as grant of rights?
I don't think anyone in the league will define lengthy. I mean, basically,
5 to 7 years. Let's say 5 or 6 years.
Well, 5 or 6 is not lengthy, really.
Well, with
compared to the last round was with these dozen-plus year deals that became albatrosses at the end.
How about we say this up until what the other conferences are about to have theirs run out again because of the Big Ten and the Big 12, among others. So let's say 7 or 8 years.
I think if they kind of fall in the same general ballpark of timeline, that should be the expectation by way of whatever the Pac-12's deal ends up being. Pac-12, Pac-10, whatever we're calling this conference anymore. I think that's kind of the general, that should be the idea. You'd be crazy to go any longer than that, quite frankly. You should be looking to time it somewhere in that general ballpark to coincide with the end of the other grant of rights for everybody else. So everyone's at the marketplace at basically the same time. And maybe being ahead of the curve compared to being behind it, relatively speaking, this time around, for one. Even though the Big 12 was supposed to be behind, but then they jumped ahead. Okay, so be it. And also coinciding with the timing of the playoff in terms of now we know it's expanding, but we don't know for how long. And I'm not saying it's not going to be a long time, but I'm saying, but we don't know the length of the term after 2026. We don't know that yet. Is that going to be a 8-year deal, a 10-year deal, a 15-year deal? How long is it? I don't know. So knowing some of those things will help shape that conversation. But to your question, what if, Oregon doesn't like it? What do they do? Whether it be the length, agreeing to a shorter term, or is there going to be some out clause in there if somebody comes knocking or whatever? I can't speak to every which scenario. The bottom line is it does not fall on deaf ears around here to people who matter. That obviously this is one of the critical decisions in the trajectories of the institution and the athletic department and the football program. I mean, let's call it what it is. This is like an existential level situation, because if you get behind for too long, you've completely you've ceded ground that you will have a brutal time ever making up, ever. And I think the desire for lots of people is for this program to find itself in the Big Ten somehow. How? I don't know. I don't pretend to know at this point. I don't know if the Big Ten and Kevin Warren is going to look to expand beyond the 16 teams. Everything that has been said publicly is that they aren't. But having said that, would you believe them if they told you otherwise? I mean, do you really believe that they aren't going to look to do that if they can't? I don't know. But if the deal's not great, to your point, what happens? Do the corner schools then say, hey, if we're going to make basically the same thing as the Big 12 anyway, are we not better off just going there? You could probably make an argument. And if that happens, well, then what happens to the rest of whatever this conference is calling itself these days? That, I think, is the bigger question, more than just what happens to Oregon. Yes, I have to cover every day, no question. But I think the bigger domino would be, what if the deal that the Pac-12 gets, what if the proposals that they get is not all that much more lucrative than the Big 12, which is obviously on a little bit more certain and sure ground these days from a length of term and continuity standpoint. If that's the case, you could probably make a case for the corner schools to make a move, in which case then you've got 6 properties remaining in the Pac-10 who are open for the taking. And then what?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I don't pretend to know the answer to that question.
James, always great to have you on with everything you cover with Oregon. Thanks for your time. Oregonian. Oregon gets Bo Nix back. They did have the Dante Moore decision on him going to UCLA. And as he said, it depends on who you ask what Moore said to ESPN, maybe what he's saying to ESPN, whether that's true or not. Oregon's a good spot, a really good spot. They got a coach that did a great job his first year. Bo Nix was a great transfer. Every school would love to have one of those. It doesn't have to be a quarterback. It helps. have one of those type players as a transfer come in and be successful and be even better than you thought, even though he might have a chance to be pretty good?
I think your first goal for transfers is that they start. Just start. Like, how great you are, it doesn't happen until you win that starting job, that you start and play and you fill the void that you needed to go get this guy out of the transfer portal, that you didn't feel like you could wait and get a high school kid and made that move. And then there's like varying levels of satisfaction beyond the starting, right? And then you get to Bo Nix, Michael Penix, those kind of levels, then you like that is more than you could have probably asked for or thought of reasonably when they got there. Especially with Bo Nix, like James said, given his, he was erratic. I mean, you watched him and you saw like, man, this guy's got something, but there are 3.5 quarters most every game where he seems like he's not really locked into this thing. And then if the defense keeps it close, then, let's have a party. But this year he completely flipped out on his year.
Yeah, no, he had a great season. He had a really good season, and I think surprised a lot of people. And they were a team that was right there in the mix all the way to the very end. And, I guess the hope's got to be that they return a lot of that and they can go make that run and finish it off next year. But, the Pac-12's received a great gift in terms of, the quarterbacks that they're going to have, highlighting that league next year. I mean, you mentioned him and Penix, but freaking Caleb Williams is going to be, the headliner of headliners in college football next season. So you just start right there, and then, whatever else happens over the next year, basically, or 8-9 months to lead into next season. We're just getting started and scratching the surface of the transfer portal and of signing days and off-season moves, and there's still more coaching moves to be done, I'm sure. But yeah, Oregon is really well positioned, even more so now with Bo Nix coming back. And I'm curious to see how Will Stein does, because Kenny Dillingham clearly was a big part of their success, and you don't just gloss over that he's gone now. If Bo Nix struggles a little bit next year, that'll be the first place you look, is, oh, wait a second, they had to change at OC. But no, I think that they've got to be happy right now with that decision, and clearly based on the reaction, a lot of people are. As far as the Big Ten expansion thing goes, we've shied away from a lot of that during the season because it's all been about the games, and that's what it should be about. But that really does have to be an alarming situation for, a school like Oregon in particular, that is right there on that kind of line, you would think. And, one of those schools that was, often mentioned as, perhaps the next wave to join the Big Ten and, complete the full West Coast editions of, adding on to not just, the LA schools, but even the entire coast, so to speak, with them and perhaps a Washington. And that's all died down. But yeah, you start to see UCLA making the move official now, and you really wonder, like, where is this eventually heading, especially for a school like Oregon?
All right, when we come back, yesterday, the World Cup, it was unbelievable, even for a guy like me that doesn't follow it as much, but I do pay attention to the World Cup. But what we saw in the last 12 minutes of that was amazing as far as regulation time. And then what transpired, Messi against Mbappe. I mean, wow, it was unbelievable. I could not move. I was going to go play golf. I couldn't leave until that was over, and it went all the way up to the cusp of when the NFL games started at noon. Will Parchman covers soccer. He's a professor. We'll have him next to kind of give us his feedback and more. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Ted Teague sent me a text Friday. My goodness, their incentives have gone up even more. 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star trucks. Total values now of $7,250. $7,250 of total values plus $500 bonus cash to any of the first responders. You can come by and look at their dealership, test drive if you can. Ram continues to win awards year after year after year. And if they don't have exactly what you're looking for in stock, they will find it for you and go and bring it to you, or you at least then come back to the dealership a little bit later on and go, okay, I want to test drive and look at this one as well. Also, December, the Jeep, right now, values of $5,000 plus $500 in bonus cash for the 2022 or 3-row Grand Cherokee Limited. The 2023 2 or 3-row Grand Cherokee Limited, $5,000 in obviously incentives that you have. Go by the dealership, ask one of the great salespeople that are there, including one of the ones that helped me, of course, AJ, who is elite at what he does. Ted Teague runs the dealership. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. What a great time for a Christmas gift. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We have known Will Parchment for quite some time. Used to work at the Waco Trib. Now he's having a great career in education and professor and all that. But he is a soccer aficionado, a freelance soccer columnist, and he joins us on 365 Sports as we go back and look at Argentina's big moment. And Messi gets the World Cup along with his teammates. Will, I know you've watched dozens, 10, whatever amount of games. I've watched a few of the World Cup. I just happened to pick it up right before the penalty kick when Mbappe kicked the penalty kick to cut it to 2-1. From that point to the end, was that as dramatic and epic as you've ever seen?
I will go so far as to say that might be the best sporting event that I have ever seen. And, taking it back to local, I've been to the Frog Bowl in Waco and I was at the Big 12 championship game at the goal line stand. And certainly we can talk about, great Baylor events and great events in football and NFL and all those things. But for my money, I mean, those last, certainly the last 20 minutes of regulation and then extra time and then obviously penalty kicks, I would say considering the stage, considering the talent on hand, you got arguably the two best players in the world going at it. That was for me. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat. That might be the best sporting event I've ever seen.
There was this sense of, like not a passing of the torch because, Messi's not going anywhere yet. He's still clearly, even at 37, one of the two best guys in the world, especially with Mbappe there. But, you're watching, if to compare it to like Michael Jordan in his prime and then like a young player like maybe a Kobe coming up in a title game, which you never really got to see. It was so unbelievable. Just the international tension and the superstar nature of that is bigger than a lot of things I can even think of.
Yeah, it's hard to really draw parallels with American sports. You look at Jordan and obviously, some of the elite, Brady's and, you stack up their championships and obviously all that is unbelievable. But to put into perspective a little bit what Messi's done. So Messi has now won a Champions League, which is the biggest on the club stage. He's won, I think it's 8 league titles with his various teams that he's been with over the years. He's won a Copa America, which is the South American international tournament, which is all the, you got Brazil and Argentina and Colombia and all those groups go at it, which is obviously a huge deal down there. And now, you add to all that, he's won an Olympics. Can't forget that one. And then obviously now he's got a World Cup. And so when you stack all that up together, it's not just, Jordan winning with the dream team and, winning NBA championships. It's multiple, times, in my opinion, what that is, because you're talking about club, you're talking about international, and then multiple clubs in multiple countries. And so, in my opinion, I mean, there was really no doubt in my mind that Messi was the best player ever. I know there's probably some recency bias there. You got Pele and some other elite guys, but you add now a World Cup. I mean, I don't understand how anyone could argue that there's a better player in history than Messi now.
So, explain again in soccer terms, isn't 2-0 with 12 minutes left like not a blowout, but that's hard to come back from. The penalty kick started everything, but isn't 2-0 with 11 minutes or so left in a match almost, you're just not going to win it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they do call it the most dangerous lead in soccer, but it's sort of like having a 2-touchdown lead in a football game, right? I mean, it feels pretty good to be up 14, but then all of a sudden you give up a touchdown and it's like, well, now you can see a path back and you kind of see some guys' heads start to pick up and the momentum starts shifting. And you saw that with France. They got that first goal. I think Mbappe scored goals within maybe 3 or 4 minutes of each other to get them back level at 2-2. And it's just sort of that thing that happens in sports where you think, oh, they're completely done. It's 2-0. I think there was like 15 minutes left in the game, and 2 goals in 15 minutes doesn't happen very often, let alone against a team like Argentina, which has really been rolling through the tournament. And then Mbappe gets the first, and then the second, you're like, okay, game on. And then, obviously those 2 goals that they traded in extra time were pretty huge too. But yeah, I mean, you don't see it very often, but it's just that thing in sports where, the momentum gets rolling in one way and it just doesn't stop.
It's also, pretty rare, like look, I mean, Mbappe scored all the goals for France, right? So that doesn't happen all that often. Like, 2-goal day is huge, but to have almost every offensive situation flow through the 2 biggest stars also made that so much more dramatic.
Oh, I loved it. I was joking around on Twitter that I would love to see Messi and Mbappe just go back and forth in penalty kicks. I mean, nobody else in the game really seemed to matter at a certain point because, obviously you want your best players to show up on the biggest stages. And, I would say Messi's best games came in this tournament. I mean, and I'm not talking about best games internationally. I'm talking about his best performances, period. I mean, we've got obviously all kinds of analytics to point to that can kind of prove that point. But if you just watch him play, I would argue he's never been more dialed in, and I would include his time, in his mid-20s playing at Barcelona when he was just kind of ripping apart La Liga, including the 2014 tournament when Argentina made a run to the final and lost in that heartbreaker to Germany in like the 114th minute. I would put his performances up there. And then obviously Kylian Mbappe is just a otherworldly superstar. I mean, he's only 23, already has a World Cup, already has multiple league titles. And so obviously the future's still ahead of him. And he's got what I would say SEC speed down the flanks. But, I think that's part of what makes that stage unbelievable is when those stars show up and it really kind of puts some glitz and glamour on the moment.
We see that, USA and all that, red, white, and blue, a lot of times the Olympic Games, maybe a Ryder Cup or whatever. But can you try to describe what it means to a country when they win the World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage anyone to go look up the scenes in Buenos Aires, some of the drone cam footage right after that game ended of just the streets just packed from wall to wall for miles on either end, and just the party that was going on, and probably still is, honestly, in Argentina right now. And that's a nation that had won 2 World Cups before. So you can only imagine, if a country like Morocco, which made the semifinal, I mean, even that run alone galvanized that country. And you're talking about, the president making statements and people coming together. And, there were some estimates that the GDP of Morocco raised 3% over the course of the tournament from trades. And it's like, there's really no comparison in any other sport to what the World Cup will do. And, you've obviously got presidents in the box watching games, and it's unbelievable. And so part of me really wants to see a country that has never won it win again soon, because that hasn't happened in about 15 years. And so, crossing our fingers, the U.S. is next up on that block.
Well, they get to host it, right?
That's right. Yeah, and coming here too. I don't think they've cemented it yet, but there's some talk that Jerry World might be not just hosting games, but hosting the final as well, which would be pretty wild.
Yeah, Will. Obviously, it's the dream of every soccer aficionado and fan to go to World Cup, but to have it happen, in your home country where you don't have to, figure out how much it costs to stay in Qatar for 2 weeks really has to be nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what that feeling would be like, but we've had host countries talk about it before, and just the ability to not have to sort of go through the mental gymnastics of, the language and knowing where to Uber and how to get, here, there, and everywhere. And so I think the fact that, you'll be playing in front of very friendly crowds. You'll be able to, have all your family there and friends there. There's something to that. But, at the end of the day, I think, yeah, it's a great thing.
Will, thank you. And anytime I want to have coverage of soccer, the first thing I do is, all right, and I've had to rattle my cage a couple of different times, but Will Parchman, always great to get your feedback. You've been a part of it. You still are. And thanks for your time. I thought it was amazing. If anyone could just get the YouTube of the 78th minute or whatever that was until the end, I think they would just be unbelievably excited and adrenaline rush, and it was incredible. Thank you.
Of course, anytime, and be waiting on that soccer segment. Let's do it.
All right.
We'll get there one day.
There we go. We got to put the 365 Sports in the soccer segment. I really do. I'm not trying to overanalyze what I was doing, but I sat down, was going to watch it. I said, okay, it's 2-0. I'm going to watch Messi and Argentina celebrate, and then, wow, did everything flip. And the way that the regulation ended, and France even had more opportunities, then they went extra time, and, of course, so did Argentina. It was incredible. And then the pressure of the kicks, the goaltenders, and the goalies, and then also, of course, the young men and veterans who have to try to make the kick.
Yeah, I feel bad for the goalies on the penalty kicks, but it's a really tough thing to do because the advantage is all with the guy kicking the ball. You have to totally read him. So it's really impressive. I do feel bad for the guys who clearly made, and one of the guys from France clearly made the right decision on where to shoot the ball, but just went wide left so dirty. That just has to be, in the World Cup final, to be a feeling you may never get over for the rest of your life.
The way Messi, it wasn't a delay, and I don't know how, Jack, if you could help me, how he was able to take his first kick and make it look like it was in slow motion, and yet the goaltender had no chance. The goalie had no chance. It was almost as if it was delayed, but it wasn't. It was just weird, and that's why he's one, if not the greatest of all time. When we come back, some more college football to get to. The AP named their coach of the year. Navy has a new coach with some Baylor ties, and Jackson State in the transfer portal, a ton of players, including Travis Hunter. All of that and more. This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem. Look, it's the holidays. If you've got a fan who's a friend who's a whiskey fan in your life, and they want a locally sourced Texas bourbon, guess what? Best place to go, Riverbend Liquor and Wine. They've got it all. Balcones, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers, all of that there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine at Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank. Great selection of craft beer. So if you have a beer fan in the family, you can go and kind of get them a grab bag of different things that they can have at the holidays. Great selection of wines and other spirits, everything they have there, always churning the roster of what they have, of having new brands and different types of things. Great promotions you can find on Instagram. And hey, if you're at a Christmas party this weekend and somebody forgot something or wants to get something and nobody wants to leave, just find them on DoorDash, order it, they'll bring it to the house. And, of course, if you're running late to the party and don't feel like you have time to go into the store, well, they can get it for you in the drive-thru window, which is speedy and fast. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find out more on Instagram.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, a couple of 2 or 3 college football notes. Sonny Dykes named the Associated Press Coach of the Year. Landslide received 37 out of about 40, I think it was 46 votes. 37 of 46 first-place votes. 3 times the number overall votes. Willie Fritz of Tulane was second. Josh Heupel of Tennessee finished third. That's about right. Lance Leipold, 8th. DeBoer at Washington was 6th or 7th. Lincoln Riley was 6th. And then Elko at Duke finished 9th. Jim Moore at UConn's playing right now against Marshall, not doing well. He finished in the top 10.
Well, actually, they started off horrific. UConn looked like they didn't even realize they were supposed to be playing in a bowl game. Looked like they did absolutely nothing with the time allotted to them. Granted, it's not as long as other teams are getting, especially when you play pre-Christmas. It's kind of a quick turnaround, but they were dead in the water to start this game. And now they've actually cut the lead in half. I mean, 1 quarter to play, but they just scored to end the third, and it's just a 2-score game now. So that went from looking like a blowout to actually maybe perhaps if they can make another play here pretty soon, somewhat interesting of a finish, but we'll see.
Well, we had our picks. We got to go over those tomorrow. We get Emery Levi, to put them up, and we can go over them. I didn't do well. I need Marshall to win to finish 5-4. I went right off the top 0 for 3. In fact, the game we were watching as it was winding down, I had UTSA. Of course, we know what happened there. So, Sonny Dykes, AP Coach of the Year. Kleiman was in the top 13 or 14, but Leipold the closest at number 8 from the Big 12, other than Dykes, who won it. Also, Brian Newberry, once on the Baylor coaching staff. I think he's a Baylor alum.
He is. Well, it's on the Baylor campus as a student as well and a player. So, yeah.
So he's now replacing Ken Nuatopololo.
You want to try again?
Nua Matalolo, excuse me, thank you, as the head coach at Navy. And he was on the staff. I sent him an email last week. I said, hey, good luck with the transition. I did not know he was going to get the job. And he responded, and it's good for him. He now gets the job at Navy after he was the coordinator for the defense since 2019.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for them. I don't think they needed to make a drastic change. There's just sometimes you need a new voice, and maybe not a new-ish voice. I mean, not so new. But, yeah, I think he's certainly earned it. And that job is now becoming more of a calling than it is everything else because of, like we talked about the other day with Andre Carter, the way the world is changing when it comes to college football.
Yeah, I mean, cool to see a guy who's got, those ties, coming back to where we are here right next to Baylor. So, cool little local connection there. But it was just time. I think, when we interviewed a Navy guy, we didn't quite have the full picture of how that ended. When we talked to him, we didn't realize there was a, kind of a disappointing way that was finalized given his time there. Just all right, see you later. I mean, basically just throwing him to the side,
in
out
the
of the way.
locker room after the game.
Yeah, that wasn't what you would expect for a guy who had been at a place that long, and definitely not what you would expect from a place like Navy. Like, I just felt like there'd be more of a, respectful send-off. So that was kind of surprising and disappointing all at the same time. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that Coach Ken did a really good job while he was there. It's just these last couple years in particular have been really tough, and then you add on the way that they lost their, big rivalry game against Army to cap off the year. And, it's not a great surprise as many highlights as he did have there, but clearly there were some things they, still liked about the way things were going to hire in-house and not completely go a different direction. But, obviously Newberry has some experience now there, and that's a unique place. So that experience, I'm sure, will come in handy, and the time under Niumatalolo will come in handy, and that familiarity, I would think, with the players will come in handy as well. But, a unique challenge, and I'm sure he's up for it, so good for him.
Yep, so
and they had a really good defense, and that's what he was in charge of, and so, that's why, part of why he's getting the nod.
I don't want to be off the list here, but on the Sikkim365.com in the forum section, Paul, Craig, and I didn't know any of them. I knew the names once I got it. Former Baylor graduates. Was Hayden Fry a Baylor grad?
Yes.
Went to Iowa as the head coach. Mo Lindquist, Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Moore, who coached at North Texas, Texas Tech, and App State.
Well, he was the coach at App State beat Michigan, yeah.
Yep. Blake Anderson, head coach at Utah State, was at Arkansas State. Now, a couple of others, there's others who have been assistant coaches, including right now Dino Babers at Syracuse, Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. But those were some of the names that were brought up on the thread who were graduates or as assistant coaches who have been on the Baylor staff.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I also think, too, I started looking at this during the coaching carousel. It's so incestuous, the coaching profession. I mean, you look at it like Mike Gundy was at Baylor. If we want to start making, Larry Fedora twice, we can – it's almost when you got into the Leach thing, I think that's what made me think about it, where all these places these guys have crossed paths, and you think of, the lack of loyalty sometimes, and you're like, why would there be any loyalty for a lot of these guys? They've lived everywhere in every part of the country, multiple places and multiple jobs, multiple crossovers. But yeah, I mean, Baylor's had some big names that have walked those hallways and earned degrees in some cases, as far as the coaching part of the profession goes. That's pretty cool. But yeah, he's a nice addition, and we'll see what he does. But, as I said, they've got a little something to build off as far as how they, defended the run. And so I'm sure he got some credit for that, and that aided, in their choice, along with, already having some familiarity. So good luck to him.
Travis Hunter, he, of course, the elite recruit. Florida State thought they were going to get him. Then he ends up committing and playing for Deion Sanders at Jackson State. Deion, I don't think he actually alluded to Travis Hunter in the press conference because there's got to be something
he
where
had
you
a video where he said, Travis is coming.
Yeah, okay. And so he entered the portal officially on Sunday night. Is it 100% lock he's going to Colorado?
I think it's a pretty good lock that he's going to Colorado, but he did say in his announcement that he's going to have to go see if that's really the best fit for him. I would think that the one thing that could sway him is a school like FSU or Georgia, or someone who is probably better off to win a conference title and compete, gets him in there, because the NIL is going to be almost the same anywhere he goes. He's going to have a number where he's going to get paid, at Colorado, at Georgia, at FSU. Guys that are as talented as Travis Hunter, Arch, I said this about Arch Manning. Arch Manning's going to have a number you have to hit. And if you hit that number, then the school doesn't matter because you know what the number is. So he's going to get to legitimately pick where he wants to be. He wanted to be with Deion. You would think he'd be with Deion. Now, Colorado, I don't think is going to have a great shot, even with all the new talent they're going to bring in, to win the Pac-12 next year, because there's a lot of good teams bringing back a lot of good guys. And, they're going to have that year adjustment. Now, when UCLA and USC leave after next year, that league is going to be as wide open as it is. Plus, with Penix will be gone, Nix will be gone. There'll be a lot of people leaving, and they'll have maybe a jump on the quarterback hierarchy and all that. So does he want to wait a couple years to really compete for one, or does he want to do it right now?
Man, the last time I saw him, he was doing a live stream over the Deion press conference and saying, I'm coming. Don't worry, coach, I'm coming, or whatever. And so, I think that's what everybody just chalked up as the inevitable move for him. I would assume that's probably still where he ends up. But, if you ask 100%, no, I don't think it's 100%. I don't think anything's 100% in NIL era. So, there's certainly some teams that could come calling and maybe sway him, but I would say 95 to 99% chance that he probably ends up at Colorado with Deion. But you never know because now it's free reign to go ahead and pursue him. So I'm sure a lot of those schools that were doing so previously. I mean, we remember Nick Saban had his little pot shot at Jackson State and alluding to Travis Hunter about getting paid $1 million. He did that whole thing last year. So you had the Sabans of the world that were after you. He was the top dude. So I don't think that's going to change too much now that he's in the transfer portal. I'd expect there's going to be a lot of pursuers, and I just think Deion's got the edge, but we'll see.
And Nick Evers, Oklahoma, is headed to Wisconsin to play for Luke Fickell, who's of course their new head coach. He was at Flower Mound High School. Top 200 prospect, 166 in his senior class of 2022. He originally committed to Florida, flipped to Oklahoma, signed with the Sooners, played behind Dillon Gabriel. And what I'm going to say about this is that Gabriel, remember, went out in that game against Texas, and it wasn't him that came in. It was somebody else. They could not – they had nobody.
Davis Bevel.
Yeah, their quarterback room went from as elite and deep with elite players as anywhere to – when Dillon Gabriel went out, they were in trouble in that Texas game and also any other time.
Well, and I'm sure they were trying to preserve his red shirt at the time, seeing he's a 4-star guy. But Jackson Arnold's coming in there, too, and Craig can speak to Oklahoma better than I can. But it's wide open at Wisconsin. He's got a shot to go in there and win the job right away, depending on if they bring in somebody else. Another big quarterback transfer just came down the line. Drew Pine going to Arizona State from Notre Dame. So that's the second transfer QB that Arizona State has picked up. I would think that he has a little bit of an advantage over Jacob Conover in that he was a starter. Jacob Conover was the backup or one of the backups at BYU, but Drew Pine is on its way to Tempe.
Yeah, BYU managed without Jaron Hall over the weekend, which we'll hopefully get around to. But, Drew Pine, that's a nice pickup for Kenny Dillingham in Arizona State. You think now with he and Conover that their quarterback room's pretty well stocked as far as, making moves on further transfers go. What we're talking Evers, he's a highly rated guy at the time, but, that kind of goes without saying, especially for Oklahoma. Don't know a ton about him other than, people were excited when he committed and all that, but Dillon Gabriel appears to be coming back next year with remaining eligibility. And you would think that if he was going to make a move, he would have made a move now. Although, I guess if there's any discontent or whatever, something changes, there's still time in the spring for that. But that would be, kind of late in the game for any change. So, the writing's on the wall for Nick Evers if he wants to play, next year. It's not likely going to be at Oklahoma. So, we'll see. Wisconsin clearly needed a quarterback, and that was obvious all year long. It's obvious last couple of years. So Luke Fickell coming in, you expected they would make some moves in the quarterback game, and they do. So, we'll see how that goes.
All right, I want to say thanks to Timothy T.J. Scott, sent an email over the weekend. He started listening to us. He moved to the Bremont area, which is southeast of here, down near College Station. And he quoted out, all of our sponsors. He's moved into the area. He's going to look for a metal building. He mentioned pickup out. He picked Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Needed something for his F-150, pickup outfitters. Wants to go get something at a butcher shop, mentioned Waco Custom Marketplace, and then also said, I might even go to Riverbend Liquor and Wine to see if they can turn me on to some Texas-made Crown Royal. TJ, thank you for the email. I sent this to each one of those sponsors to let them know that you're new, started watching the show, and good luck with all of what you have with the move, the transition into the and all the acreage you bought in Bremont.
By the way, Provo Cougar fan, $10 super chat. Merry Christmas. Came in late. BOU was out 11 starters, first, second, third string QBs down to fourth string practice squad QB and one Go Cougars, and that was a really good game. SMU and BYU.
I think I picked SMU.
Y'all definitely picked SMU. I definitely picked BYU and not feeling confident about it by any means, especially with Jaron Hall out. But, I give credit to the Cougars for fighting a big third quarter and had to fend off, SMU there in the fourth, but able to do it, able to eke out a win, and did so in, dramatic fashion. So that was a big time win for BYU, just given kind of all the adversity that they've faced over the course of this year. Certainly not the season that they planned on having. Unable to do really anything of substance in the passing game without Jaren Hall in there. I mean, they ended up with it was like 50 yards, passing in that game. I think it was, or something close to that. It was ridiculous. It was like Army-Navy or something like that as far as, moving the football goes. And they didn't get a whole lot out of the running game either. Like it was a struggle for them, but, able to play well enough, in the face of adversity to grab a big win over SMU and, end their tenure as a non-Big 12 team with a win after a season that really – they took a lot of bumps and bruises, and so now you head into the offseason. You've got a win to cap things off. You find out where you are with Jaren Hall, and you obviously get busy in the portal like everybody else and do whatever you got to do to retool. But that was a big win for the Cougars and what was otherwise a pretty disappointing and forgettable year.
Roy Melton on the chat. Justin Horn committed to Texas Tech, linebacker out of New Orleans. I think he may have gone to John Curtis High School, which is an elite school in Louisiana. Supposed to go and visit Baylor, but committed to Tech and vowed he would stay to his commitment. So National Signing Day is just around the corner on Wednesday. So thank you for that and that update from Roy Melton.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Baylor showing some interest in him. I'm not sure how serious I'm just saying I didn't cover it closely, so I'm not sure how in the game that they were compared to Tech, but that's regardless a nice, get for Texas Tech. Appears to be a pretty good player, and, they're really going to be a staff that is really at their best at this time of year. I feel like, they focus a lot on the recruiting side of things, as everybody sort of needs to, but I mean, they're definitely going to not only get some recruiting wins, but then let you know about it and promote it and take advantage of it. And so right now I think they got another flip that's in the works potentially. I think I saw something about that. The add in Horn, so there's a couple new guys, and yeah, I mean, they're gonna be like, look at what Matt Rule's doing right now, and like they were a part of that same run, on Twitter and all that, and they know how to really grab momentum and run with it. And I think you're going to see Texas Tech do that. They have a great staff and great recruiters, and are really good about finding diamonds in the rough, but also, getting in there and, promoting the brand and promoting their brand of football. So I think that they're finding some good guys, and that's going to bode well.
I got to say this from TJ, and then we come back with a segment. China Spring won the state championship, and we were wrapping up the show Friday, and the kicker is going to join us in kind of what was going through his mind with Thomas Barr. TJ Scott, how do I unlike you guys after I hit the like button after you started talking about soccer?
Well, I told him in 4 years, when we talk about it again, I'll give him a heads up.
Yep, that's exactly right. All right, it's 4:41. Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, Jacob Wilson, Levi Caraway, obviously Emery Winter, and everybody tonight at 10 on the CW channel. It's Sports Tonight, and this is 365 Sports. It's not too late for you to get what you need for Christmas and or possibly with what you have planned for New Year's. Waco Custom Marketplace with specials right now, dollarly specials, lower prices on hams and turkeys. They have a smoked turkey that's fantastic, a raw turkey. You can, of course, do with it whatever you want. All the prices are there. Go to WacoCustomMarketplace.com. They're located at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. But also, they have prime ribs, rib roast. If you want one of those for something just a little bit different or really a classy night for whatever dinner you're going to make, man, every time I've made a rib roast with what they've given or what I've picked up at their place, it has been absolutely just delicious, mouth-watering delicious. However you want to cook it, a rib roast available, however small or large you want, depending on how many people, how many mouths you're going to fill. Also, cold beer, cold wine. They have a bakery that's open not 24/7, but they cook brand new bread, also new bread, and also kolaches in the morning. And the butcher shop is not just beef, but also chicken for the poultry, for your pork, and also seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
We're now joined by China Springs senior kicker, and he kicked the game-winning, state championship-winning field goal Friday in the win against Bernie in a comeback 24-21. What's your life been like the last 3 days?
It's been pretty chill, surprisingly, but just enjoying the win, taking it all in before, obviously, it's over.
As you knew, the drive was starting to kind of get past midfield into Bernie territory, and it looked like it was going to end up being a field goal to win the game. And What was on your mind during that time?
Honestly, I was looking forward to the opportunity because I knew I could punch it in. I trusted my teammates, trusted my coaches, knew they all trusted me. So I just knew I could go out there and execute.
You've kicked game-winning field goals before, and obviously against Stephenville that won the district title. Did any of your past experiences kind of go through your mind as you know it's about to be that time?
Yes, sir. So the main thing I learned from my trainer is for confidence building in pressure situations, you just think about other times you've had pressure and think of how you overcame that.
Take me through the moment.
So I went out there, and I knew it was just an extra point. So I was like, all right, it's just an easy chip shot, set the tee down, line back up, looked at my team, looked up, looked at my coaches, knew I had to do this for them, and then nodded my head, and then rest is history.
Coach Beatty or anyone say anything to you during the timeout?
He did a little bit. He was just like, all right, go out there. I have complete faith in y'all. And so, yeah, he was excited because he knew there was a basically like 99% chance that we were going to win.
I spoke with Sean, your dad, earlier, and I mean, he passed out after you made the kick. He was such a moment. What did you say to him and your mom when you saw him?
Basically, they're just asking me how it was, and they're like, how do you feel? You're two-time state champion. I was still taking it all in, so it was just a great moment, great experience.
Have you seen the video of your father, parents, friends trying to get ready for the moment?
Oh, yes, sir, I have many times. So funny.
Moms are always pretty cool, right? I mean, your mom was pretty cool. She's nervous, and so was. But your dad, yes, I mean, he told me he basically just fell after you made the kick. He just all but passed out.
Yeah, my mom and my dad, they both trusted me. They both knew all the preparation and stuff that I had done would eventually pay off. So I don't know if it was out of nervousness, but it was mainly just out of excitement.
I also had the opportunity to speak with Thomas's father, Sean, as the game progressed towards what could be a game-winning field goal. So, Sean, I watched the game in replay. Can you try to explain the emotions when you knew they were getting close, and then as he's about to line up and here we go to win the state championship?
Yeah, it was very emotional. We had a lot of family and friends around us in the stands, and we've seen him do it before. And so we knew that he had the confidence in himself to do it. But as we started getting closer, actually, in reality, I was hoping we'd punch one in so he wouldn't have to be put in that situation. But when we got down there and we called that timeout and we knew that Thomas was about to run out there and do it, it was emotional. His last game, senior, been working hard to get to this spot, for them to be able to go back-to-back, for the snapper and the holder to do their job, the blockers to do their job. I mean, it was just an entire team effort. And so when he went out there to make that kick, we all had confidence in him, just like his coach said in his interview. They knew that Thomas could do it. Thomas knew that he could do it. And as you said, it was a shorter one than he kicked earlier in the year. So we knew that it was going to go in and they were going to be able to lift that trophy again. He said that he was totally comfortable and confident when he went out there. He wasn't nervous at all. He was really excited. One of the neat things about this is this was, again, his senior year. And so we didn't have any kind of sad emotions about his high school football career ending like we thought we were going to have. Because of the way the game ended, it was just all joyous and celebration. So, and no disappointment. He knew he was going to make it.
You were standing up. You were looking around. You're trying to keep yourself busy. Was there ever a point where you just almost like had to sit down?
Well, funny you should say that, because so right when he made the kick, I actually, in some video you can see it, and I threw my hat for some reason up in the air. But then right after that, I sort of passed out. I don't know if it was the emotion, my blood pressure, the excitement, me yelling. But there's funny when you watch the actual film on Valley, you can see right before the kick, there's me, my wife, my friends, we're all cheering. When they pan to us afterwards, there's no Sean because I've fallen down to the ground. And my friends are turning around to see if I'm okay. So, yeah, I guess you could say that was me sitting down after he made it, after all the emotions came through.
I know he's got that nickname, Mr. Automatic. He's kicked clutch field goals throughout his entire life. He goes to the Oberkrom camp and all that. Is there something about him that maybe people don't know, something unique with him?
The unique about Thomas is just that he is such a good kid. It's hard to say something that a lot of people don't know because a lot of people do know that about him. But he has God at the center of his life, and he is not afraid or ashamed to tell people that. And that's what guides him in everything that he does. And just a very great kid in everything that he does, not just football.
So, Thomas, you kicked that game winner against Stephenville. You've kicked a ton of field goals in your career. And now you have, the rest of this year at China Spring to finish out. It's hard for kickers to get opportunities in college, although every team has one or two of them. What is your future, you think, in college football?
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for a coach to give me an opportunity. I've talked to some colleges, but they're still looking at other guys, making sure they want to find the best person for that spot. And so I'm just waiting for an opportunity, and I'm open for anything. And once the opportunity comes, and I know the Lord has a plan for me. And so I'm just going to trust his plan and just, go off of that.
How much does former TCU kicker Oberkrom help you? You go up and see him, once or twice a month. How much has that helped you?
Yes, sir. It really helps me a lot. There will be things that I don't even realize that I'm doing, like not necessarily bad or like wrong, but just not like he'll show me a thing that'll help me improve even more. And even the littlest thing. And he's really good at that. He's a great guy. He's an all around good person. Always good conversation. So it's not like a nag to have to go up there. So it's like it's a good time. So he helps me a lot.
You can't do it without a snap and a hold, right? With Jace Garrett and Dean Hanna, how much have they, almost like you guys are all one, the three of you together?
Yeah. So we started off the year, and we didn't know who was going to be those spots because we had a long snapper last year that moved away, and then our holder, obviously, Major Bowden, he went to Lamar. So we didn't know the spots to fill, and so it took some not like tryouts, but like trying out essentially. And we found them, and we've had some rough, but mostly good. And it's been a grind. We all the practices we've done and all the bonding, we grew really close together, and we got to where we were all trusting each other I didn't have to worry about the snap of the hold. I just knew it was going to be there. Just go out there and do my job.
Some schools are out, and you guys are in school, according to what Coach Beatty. What's that? Has it been kind of a numbing, or is everybody worn out? Is everyone excited? What's it like in the hallways?
Everyone seems to be excited, but at the same time, it's also finals week, so we all are like stressing about finals and all that stuff. But it's a good environment. I've had a lot of teachers come up and congratulate me and be all excited. And so, the whole community really rallies, and that's what's so special about it.
What's more nerve-wracking, a final or a kick to win the state championship?
I'm going to have to say a final on that one.
If you pass it like you did the kick on Friday, then you'll be just fine, and I'm sure that you're doing great, and you will as a student athlete as well. Thomas, enjoy the holidays. I know you will. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. You too.
You have a great day. State championships back-to-back. Thomas Barr from China Spring on 365 Sports.
Thank you so much.
You too. Bye-bye. He's a happy young man. He should be. Thanks to both Thomas and Sean for jumping on with a little bit. Saturday, a couple of notes in high school football. Aledo won their 12th state title. 12th. And they had a couple of losses earlier this year. DeSoto and Duncanville in the same district. You guys ever remember watching DeSoto and Duncanville in the same district with Midway, the battering ram?
Uh-huh.
They both won state championships in 6A. Duncanville finally gets one for Reggie Samples after some heartbreaking losses when he was at Dallas Lincoln and also against North Shore in Duncanville. When we come back, we'll have Sam Bradshaw looks at a lot of the bowl games, thoughts about Baylor and Air Force and more. And this is 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty and Petty Clinic LowT.com can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and perhaps used to be. Father Time can take over. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It's part of just, you just kind of like won the lottery. 1 out of every 3 men. It happens. But you can help fix that if you want. And if you do have low testosterone, how do you find out? Go to pettycliniclowt.com. Google that or look it up. and get in the top left-hand corner of their website, contact the staff at Petty Clinic, and they will also then set up an appointment for you to get your blood drawn. Dr. Petty will get the results, see what your testosterone level is, and if your blood level and testosterone level is too low, he could put you in a program to increase it methodically and get you back to being the man you want to be, used to be, need to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22-pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16-pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12-pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8-pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Start this 5 o'clock hour. David Hellman at the bottom of the hour. The Cowboys popped a 17-point lead and lost in Jacksonville in a crazy game, but one of many in the NFL this past weekend. We're now joined by Sam Bradshaw, S11, writes for the Sikkim365.com, and also has been with us throughout most of the year. Sam, thanks for your time. Paul just made this comment about the game with Air Force on Thursday. The one thing we know is that Air Force is not going to come in here any kind of okay, it's a bowl game. They will come in full throttle, focused, and wanting, of course, to play incredibly well.
Thanks for having me on. No question. You just hear some of the media availability from those Air Force guys. As soon as that bowl matchup was announced, you could just feel it. They want this game. They want this game bad. They're coming for it. Bears better be ready for a fight, because Air Force won't be the most talented team you play, but what they make you defend schematically is off the charts difficult. They're the most difficult offense schematically to defend, because they're the best flex bone offense in the nation this year. And their defense is a lot stronger than you typically see from a service academy. And it's going to be a handful. It's going to be cold, which is Air Force is used to. Baylor's not. It's going to be a situation where Baylor's got some guys they're used to having out there that are not out there. And, on the defensive side, Aranda's your defensive coordinator, but he's also trying to hire a new one. He's also trying to handle recruiting. He's also trying to hire a new safeties coach. So there's a lot going on that gives Air Force a bit more of an advantage than they would have if it was played in, say, October or something.
Sam, they are the best flexbone team in the country, and they run a lot of different looks out of that. They don't throw a lot, but they throw sometimes, and they make sure it's effective when they do. What's the scariest thing about them compared to what Baylor's strengths and weaknesses are on defense?
Well, the scariest thing with the defense like that, or with an offense like that, is there's so much to prepare for, and it's not just the coaches having a good plan. It's also just how many guys you have to have on the same page doing their job, even when it's mundane. When Aranda ran into Navy back in 2009, same Navy team that almost took down number 5 Ohio State at the Horseshoe and gave Missouri a sound beating, Aranda did a really good job stopping him. But one play, a defensive tackle decides to slant out of his gap, and they couldn't run down Ricky Dobbs right after that, and 50 yards later, it's a touchdown. That was 7 of the 17 points Aranda gave up in that game, but it just shows you can defend them very, very well all game, and then they just crease you because they stress you so much laterally. They stress you so much assignment-wise. But the thing about Air Force that's just nasty, it's not just the option. They are really good at zone. They're really good at trap. They'll throw 15 different forms of trap at you. They'll throw rocket tosses at you. They'll angle you, but they also get movement on their zone blocking. I've watched some of the film of them against Colorado, and admittedly, Colorado was a bit of a dumpster fire this year, but that's a Power 5 team, and they were pushing them back on zone runs. They were getting creases up the middle on zone and trap, and Brad Roberts was getting a field day. And it wasn't just inside. They hit him with the rocket toss, and Colorado had no answer. I mean, this is a team that'll punch you. They're good.
Sam, kind of drifting off topic a little bit, just not so much focusing on Air Force here, but, Aranda taking over as DC for this week, and then ultimately he'll go, find or finish off his defensive coordinator search. But, looking back now, how surprised or not surprised are you about the Ron Roberts change?
I'm very surprised based off Ron Roberts' reputation, not only as a schematic coach, but a long-time tenure as a head coach, long-time tenure with Aranda in that coaching tree, and then also just known within the coaching community as being a genuinely friendly guy and everything. So for it to be kind of a culture issue is a very big surprise, but I don't know enough about the exact details to comment any further than that, but I'm very surprised at it, to say the least. I expected with some of the issues you had in the secondary that they'd make a change with the safeties coach, but Roberts definitely surprised me.
On Ronnie Wheat, was he more moving on from him because of the secondary at safeties or because of special teams?
Special teams certainly didn't help him, and that certainly was a regression this year after losing Powledge. I don't pretend to know exactly everything that went into that decision, but I know Aranda's got quite the burden leading up to this bowl game. I'd feel a lot better about it if it was played after Christmas, like the other one that was in that flex pick for the bowl order for the Big 12. But, given enough time, I think Aranda can do a good job scheming these guys. He came out with a couple different plans in that game against Navy. He had one where it was a 4-down front, and they were two-gapping both guards with the defensive tackles, and then the defensive ends were two-gapping the offensive tackles, which really gave Navy triple option some fits. But what really got me is they went to like a 3-3-5, and the way they played their corners and the way they played their defensive ends, Navy couldn't get the triple going on them at all. I mean, it was almost like teaching tape watching them just cut them down. It was impressive to see.
Sam Bradshaw, S11 with us, SicEm365.com football analyst on 365 Sports.
Sam, do you expect to see Baylor attack this defense any differently than they would normally? I mean, would they throw the ball more, or are we going to see a game that's, because of the weather and the conditions, is mostly run on both sides?
I think it's going to be more run than they otherwise would be due to the weather. But I felt like Baylor's going to live and die with that for the most part anyway. I mean, I don't anticipate Air Force just giving you man coverage after man coverage. They'll do it situationally when they think they can get you off the field, but they also are aware if you did a 100-meter relay team for your secondary and Baylor receivers, it's probably not going to go well for the Falcons. That's a lot of speed to give single coverage risk to a lot of time. I think, with Baylor, you're going to base out of that run game. You're built on reliable, violent offense, that wide zone, that frontside toss, and then a lot of the different counters that you have to those plays. So it was always going to be run. And this game probably has the lowest number of possessions in all of bowl season, especially with Army and Navy not playing anybody. This game's going to go by quick, which people in the stands will probably be happy with because it's going to be, 10, 20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're going to base out of the run, and they're going to make Air Force show that they can stop it. Wyoming was able to get some movement on them on the ground. Wyoming is not some exceptional offense, but in the trenches, they were able to move this sound Air Force defense around.
Sam, what do you think the focus has been, or what would you assume the focus has been with Blake Shapen over the last 3-4 weeks?
I think obviously they're in the film room studying their opponent, but I think just settling them down, getting back to the basics, just mechanics, and then not trying to do too much, just focusing on do your job, do your 111. And I think a lot of the improvement we're going to see from him is going to come over the offseason. But, for the most part, even though the interceptions were up, a lot of those were tip drills. There were very few of those where I just was looking at it and going, all right, that guy just made a completely dumb decision. It was either late or it was high or something like that. But as far as the defense is giving me this, I'm going here, that part of it didn't worry me, if that makes sense. It's more just, can you be consistent with your mechanics so that your naturally accurate throwing ability comes to the forefront?
Sam, have they had enough time to prepare to play Air Force? Because you always wonder about those who have no time. It's like part of their schedule, even if they've played before. Is this enough time because of what you've mentioned, the experience that Aranda's had?
Well, we're about to find out. Air Force is a really good team. If you don't believe me, ask Louisville, who they ran all over last year. A good Louisville team, I might add. I think they've got enough time. You've had 2-3 weeks to do it. That's a lot more than a lot of teams get. So we're about to find out whether or not he's able to juggle everything. But I think they've got a good shot at doing a pretty good job against this Air Force team. But this offense is good. They got an experienced quarterback who, when he can set his feet, is a pretty decent thrower. And their fullback, Brad Roberts, pretty pedestrian name, but he's 182 yards from being their all-time career leading rusher. He's the Mountain West Player of the Year. He racks up 100-yard games like it's drinking water. The guy's just outstanding. He's a lot more dynamic of a fullback than you typically see from these Service Academy fullbacks. Usually you have a lumbering guy that can just kind of fall forward. This guy can do that, but he can also break some big runs for you and get a little bit more out of it than you would typically see. He can get to the edge, too.
Sam, thoughts on Kyron Drones and Devin Neal entering the transfer portal?
Neal was a little bit of a surprise for me, but at the same time, I don't have connections on the team. I just figured he was in line to potentially play a lot next year, and he has a lot of athletic upside. Drones, I understand guys wanting to play now, and, I didn't see too much from him in that West Virginia game that made me think he would beat out Chapin. I know everybody's down on Chapin because anytime you're losing close games, the mistakes you're making are magnified. But comparing what I saw from both of them against West Virginia and what I've seen from Chapin throughout the year, it was going to be an uphill climb to unseat him, and I don't blame a kid for transferring where he thinks he has a chance to play.
And I guess I should also have asked about Micah Mazuka because obviously down an O-line body heading into this game with him in the transfer portal yesterday.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think Mose Jeffrey will do a good job, but Baylor definitely wants to stay healthy on the offensive line. You hate to lose an upside talent like that, but I hear it was something where it just wasn't a fit between the two sides. Baylor wanted things done a certain way. Mazuka wanted it done a different way. So they're parting ways, and Baylor will have to fill that spot.
I wonder who's going to win that battle. He wants to do it a certain way, and Baylor wants to do it a certain way. That usually doesn't go well.
No, it doesn't, and it usually ends up with both of them going their separate ways. But I've heard good things in terms of being able to backfill the offensive line, particularly with the transfer portal. I haven't heard specifics, but I've heard good things on that. I'm not too worried about it. But, yeah, just for this bowl game, I think Mose Jeffrey will step in and play well. He has most of the year.
So, low possessions. Brad Roberts is a force offensively. They got a pretty stingy defense. Just what are your kind of, in summation, your feelings on Baylor's chances here and kind of your expectations for this game?
I think Baylor is the better team and should win. Air Force does a good job of being a disruptive defense, but their total stats and a lot of just their raw statistical totals are really sound. But a lot of the offenses they've played have been pretty weak. I mean, when FCS Northern Iowa, a Boise State team that completely reshuffled their offense midseason, and Utah State, when those are the best three offenses you've played that aren't flex bone, you really haven't been tested. And against teams like Nevada, against teams like Wyoming, Colorado, Utah State, Boise State, teams that Baylor was able to move the ball on pretty successfully, like TCU, Texas State, and BYU, compared pretty evenly to Air Force. So I'm expecting Baylor's going to be able to move the ball on these guys pretty well. Obviously, the weather's going to make that a little tougher. So it really comes down to, can you stop that flex bone? And more importantly, can you stop Brad Roberts when they're not doing the flex bone? Because Colorado couldn't and several other teams couldn't.
How much would it make a difference if you had Siaka Ika inside there against that offense that Air Force runs?
That would be a huge difference just because you could put him on an offensive lineman, and that lineman is not going to be able to get any movement whatsoever against Ika. But I completely understand Ika's business decision. That guy is most likely going to the NFL here in a couple months, and the last thing he needs is somebody who's going to be flying jets here in the next couple of years, diving at his knees 50 times over a course of a game right before he has to work out for pro scouts with millions on the line. I totally get him missing out on the game.
There is a story, S11, Sikkim365.com, Aranda versus Navy 2009 compared to Missouri and Ohio State, among a few others. Again, post your questions for Air Force previews, and then, of course, your preview as well, advanced depth chart. Great stuff, Sam, as always. Is there a specific bowl game outside of this one which you focused in on that you think is the most intriguing?
Intriguing? I don't have a particular one circled just because I want to get through this one.
Sure.
But, just in terms of who's actually going to show up, the Oklahoma State-Wisconsin one's going to kind of be negatively interesting. Half the teams are in the transfer portal. It'll be interesting to see how Ohio State does against Georgia. Georgia's just a monster. and Ohio State got pushed around in the second half by Michigan. But I think that is one that's going to be really interesting at the playoff level. And, how does Texas do without Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson and DeMarvion Overshown against a good Washington team? Washington's defense isn't all that strong, but, if Texas' offensive line, which benefited a lot from Bijan making them look a lot better than they were, if they sputter for a little bit, Phoenix can put it on them, and Texas could have a huge fight on their hands.
Sam, thank you as always. Sam Bradshaw, S11, Sikkim365.com football analyst with us, giving us a preview. Baylor and Air Force coming up Thursday. And yes, it will be bitterly cold. We are fortunate, but we'll be inside the stadium. That it will be doing a broadcast, a pregame coming up that afternoon about the same time. Imagine we got a couple of, we'll get into that information and some of our schedule coming up over the next week or so. National Signing Day early in the morning, about 10 o'clock or so, or maybe, what time are you guys doing the show Wednesday, Craig?
Like 8 a.m., and we're going to have to get into the pregame situation less than a week or so. It's in a couple days. Yeah. Things right around the corner.
The pregame's pretty simple. I mean, we're on at 3. The pregame portion of it that'll be KWTX will be 4:30 to 6.
Right.
We're doing it. We'll be in the press box somewhere there. They've got a couple
Carter
spots
Stadium.
at Amon Carter Stadium that they'll be with us. I'm not looking for the next week. The holiday week is going to be different for us, and we'll tell you about that later in the week so you remember and don't forget. But we are going to tell you about it. And I will say this, the walk from the car to the stadium and back is what I'm not looking forward to.
Why?
Because I'm going to have flashbacks to when we were walking from the bus depot or drop off to the Mall of America in Minnesota. It's going to be that cold.
Yeah.
Well, it might be not quite that cold,
but moisture stuff. It's kind of, we've been spitting.
I will just tell you that I did see my life flash before my eyes a couple times when it was -7, and I'm like, well, that's only about 125 yards, but I'm an animal that's not acclimated to this climate, so it would be like it would be like, dropping an alligator into that climate, or crocodile, and I'm just
into a glacier.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, that's it, I'm done.
I think the alligator would be just fine. Yeah. Garrett, do you have the Jake Dickert audio on tampering? This is I saw this on Twitter. This is just a comment or two from him on what coaches are dealing with, Washington State head coach, on the transfer portal and NIL.
But there is immense challenges, Colton, to what this portal and this NIL provides. Okay, there's more tampering going on than you could ever imagine. Okay, we've had guys contact our players' parents. We had a coach from another school contact one of our players and offer him NIL, a coach. Okay, so there's more things going on behind the scenes that you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine the things that are happening right now to try to pry our players away from this place. Okay, and it's stunning, it's amazing, it's the new thing that, I guess comes with this portal transformation, but it's not right. And who's going to regulate it? Who's regulating this stuff? So there's challenges that we're facing that obviously are extremely disappointing with what other teams and other programs and the collectives maybe act, on their own behalf. But to try to get to our players' parents and offering money and opportunities and stuff it's unacceptable to me.
So that's Jake Dickert in kind of what I'm sure every coach, even those who are doing pretty well and those who are accumulating, compiling talent. Yeah, I would think that it's just – that's the only thing I didn't get to ask Haynes is I wonder when some of teams started, if he would have told us, when did people start to contact you? Of course, even he's struggling a little bit, so we're not sure about how much of there was interest. But Arizona State and Georgia Tech, 2 Power, 5 schools, and that's where he's going to end up in Atlanta.
Well, look, he said he was going to regulate it. There's been no regulation on it ever, effective regulation on it. It's always kind of been this way, and now it's just worse, and there's less they can do about tampering. But it is like there's so many uneven rules when it comes to recruiting. A coach can't even – if we asked a coach about a specific player, they can't even say his name out loud without getting in trouble. because that's a recruiting violation, because you could, use every press conference saying, man, I love Travis Hunter. I love this guy. He's great. He should come here. Well, they can't do that because then everybody has the same platform and the same reach. But, all this stuff's going on behind the scenes, and it's just everything's there needs to be some kind of balance, but I don't know how they're ever going to find it. I just don't, and there are 3 different NIL bills in front of the Senate right now that 3 different senators have authored from kind of different spots along the political spectrum. And the shot that any of those, if they all 3 come together and try to work something out, I don't know. And I don't know if the Congress is really motivated to get into that, or if they're just, like with most things, they're motivated to say that they are, but everybody forgets about everything anyway until gas prices go up or something like that, and then they get mad, and then it kind of subsides. So who knows?
Scratch the back of the constituents, worried about what they want, or and I don't even know if I want Congress getting involved in college athletics anyway. I know that maybe they have to because college athletics has allowed this to get to a point because they forever stuck their head in the sand, or at least the NCAA did. So the NCAA did. All right, Baylor football got a commitment earlier this afternoon. Jarrell Boykins Jr., defensive lineman, and he's a dude now, 6'4", I think 6'2", 340, or maybe 6'4", 340, has committed. Junior college product, committed Hutchinson. Junior college committed to David Randa and Baylor University.
Position of need for sure.
Defensive tackle, nose tackle, excuse me.
Losing most of the guys they have up there at that position. So, very much a position of need.
Yeah, looking at his profile, Hutchinson, CC, 6'4", 290 is what he's listed at, and had some other offers from the Pac-12, it looks like. But they're definitely losing a lot of D linemen. Even if some elect to come back for an extra COVID year or whatever they may decide. I mean, there's a couple of guys that seem like good candidates for that. But even if they do, even if a couple of guys do decide to come back for an extra year, they're still going to be losing a lot, including Siaki Ika and, whoever does end up – I mean, there's guys like TJ Franklin, UI, that maybe could come back, but they're going to be losing a lot, no doubt about it, even if it's not even just from a starting standpoint but from a depth standpoint. So they need bodies. They need an influx of talent, and definitely got a big body here and had some intriguing offers from, Wazoo, Colorado, Louisiana, Western Kentucky. So, nice to see them actually gain a commitment rather than lose somebody, which is kind of what it's felt like over the last few weeks ever since the season wrapped up, was just kind of one blow after another. So nice to see that reverse a little bit and just in time for signing day.
If they don't close and finish with Austin Novosad, I don't even know what the fan base will do, but it would be a kick in the nuts. There's no question. If that's the case, you know what? You want those who want to be here. He's wanted to be at Baylor. He's turned down some incredible programs. Hopefully Baylor can get to the signing day on Wednesday. He's now 6'3", 322. That's what he might have been when he was coming out of high school. Grayson had a story about him. As you mentioned, the schools that were interested in him. Washington State, the team that Baylor men's basketball beat in a game last night up in Dallas. The women were blown out by Arizona. Men played Northwestern Louisiana coming up tomorrow night at the Farrell Center. When we come back, David Hellman, the Cowboys, there was a lot of discussion that this could be a dicey game. The Jaguars are much improved. Doug Peterson is a hell of a football coach, and Trevor Lawrence is growing up. We'll have David Hellman on to discuss that and more. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for the life of your vehicle, also for great deals right now over at Richard Carr. I didn't buy my car from them originally, but I have counted on them when I've had some fender benders and some dings and bumps and things to take care of. I can attest to their first-class customer service, and when I go get into the market to buy another vehicle here, hopefully not in the too near future, but whenever that time does come, they will be the people that I look to count on once again. But right now, if you're looking for a new truck or SUV, they've got them. Gifts that can't be beat. Make this the most memorable holiday season ever with a car or truck for Richard Carr. They've got a bunch of vehicles in stock, dozens of Sierra trucks, dozens of SUVs. It's the biggest inventory overall they've had in 2 years. So right now, take advantage of 3.9% interest for well-qualified buyers on GMC Sierra and GMC Terrain trucks in stock, and 3.99% financing on Buick Encores, Envisions, and Enclaves in stock. They've got the Sierras, as I mentioned. When it comes to those in particular, you're talking best-in-class towing, unsurpassed strength, premium comfort. Right now, get 3.9% financing, and current GMC or Buick owners get a $2,500 loyalty rebate on qualified GMC Sierra trucks. And if you're not looking to buy new, they've also got dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock under $20,000. Affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance. They have quality vehicles ready to reliably take you on the road this holiday season. So take advantage of those great deals right now, whether it be the new models on the lot, the biggest inventory they've had in a couple of years, or it's all of the pre-owned vehicles they have as well, or whether it's just their great customer service. Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks this holiday season, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big during the Big Finish sales event this month on the new 2022 Chrysler 300 Touring L with total values up to $4,000, plus $500 bonus cash to first responders. Hurry in and wrap up some of the best deals of the year at Allen Samuels in Waco.
It's a staggering fact, and one that should give you pause. More than 130,000 trucks drive around Central Texas roads every week, and sadly, as many as 50% of them drive around completely naked, without a stitch of accessory on them. The plight of truck nudity is real. Won't you help? This Christmas, open up your heart to those in need. Maybe a friend, a family member, or maybe it's your truck. Give generously and give them the gift of dignity. An outfit from Pickup Outfitters. At Pickup Outfitters, we're doing our part too. We've extended our Truck Friday specials all the way to Christmas Eve, like free installation on all bed covers purchased and installed at Pickup Outfitters, $100 off any ranch hand, Frontier, or Western Grill Guard. Please don't turn a blind eye. Christmas is not the time for a truck to go naked. Give the gift of an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. Fighting truck nudity for 25 years at 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com.
U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
Here we go, 365 Sports with Paul Craig. I'm David Smoak, David Hellman, Fox Sports. In California, Cowboys lose to the Jaguars in overtime. David, how much these injuries? I haven't seen any updates about Leighton Vander Esch or whoever else, but they're starting to mount up a little bit. Is this what's affecting the defense?
Yeah, it certainly seems concerning, and I mean the answer is definitely yes. The Cowboys' run defense isn't an amazing unit to begin with, but you lose Leighton Vander Esch at the start of that game. I think it has a huge impact on the fact that they gave up 200 rushing yards on the day. Obviously, you see it. I mean, this is the way it goes. Like, nobody liked Anthony Brown, and he was the guy that defenses used to try to pick on, but he goes out of the lineup, and you're seeing how the Cowboys are struggling to replace that production at cornerback. Dorrance Armstrong missed some time. So, yeah, it's starting to get concerning, and hopefully I think the Cowboys came out today and said that they don't think Leighton is out for the year. I kind of want to see that to believe it, just because we know he's had issues with his neck before, but that would be very big because, yeah, I mean, I think it's starting to get to the point where they don't look like the same unit because of the amount of losses they've had. So hopefully they can kind of stem that tide a little bit.
David, yesterday was another one where, look, I don't want to call the Jaguars a bad team. They're not obviously as accomplished as the Cowboys. That's a team that's getting a lot better, and Trevor Lawrence is really starting to find himself, which should be scary for the rest of the league because he really played well in stretches yesterday. But you've been saying that they mess around a little while. I mean, they had a 17-point lead in that game, and then here they wind up losing in overtime. They've got to get that fixed before the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Jags are a pretty good team, honestly. I mean, they've been in most of the games that they've played. They've found a way to get some decent wins, and now all of a sudden, it's not a stretch at all to think that they could win the AFC South and make the playoffs. Now, having said all of that, it doesn't matter how good they are. You have a 17-point lead in the second half, you should win. You could be playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and I expect you to find a way to win. Yeah, I mean, yesterday was just a comedy. I'm not even a comedy of errors. It was just all of the stuff that has plagued this team. Like when it's gone bad for the Cowboys, everything reared its head. Dak made some mistakes. You certainly can't absolve him of all of the blame. The pass protection was rough. I think that played a big role in why Dak made mistakes. Obviously, the defense just did not look like itself. Wasn't able to get Trevor Lawrence on the ground, couldn't defend the run. Kelvin Joseph got picked on. That is a concerning list of things to have to clean up with just 3 games left to play. We know they can do it because we've seen them play some really amazing games when they do, but really, I mean, that game looks more and more distant by the week. So what? I think this is 4 games in a row where they've really kind of played this way. And I keep saying it reminds me of last year. There's always a reason after every game. It's like, oh, well, you see, we did this and we did that, and it won't be like that next time. And then it's like that the next time. So they've got 3 weeks to clean it up. I'm not completely losing faith that they can do it. But at this point, I'm really just like, show me, because your track record suggests that this is who you are.
How much does Jalen Hurts' shoulder or the sprain of his right throwing shoulder, and you've wondered, he carries the ball so much, he's very active, he takes a lot of hits, he's been able to stay healthy, but got beat up a little bit against the Bears. How much does that add to the intrigue of this week?
Well, it's fun. I mean, I hate to say it, and everybody's going to watch. It's Christmas Eve. It's Cowboys Eagles. Obviously, there's still things on the line, but like the the intrigue of this game feels like a balloon that got popped. Because the Cowboys losing that game, you basically handed everything to the Eagles, and now the Eagles are in a position where, like, Jalen Hurts doesn't need to play this game if there's any doubt whatsoever about his availability. Like, they've got a 2-game cushion on the Vikings. They have the tiebreaker over them because they beat them. They only need to win like 2 of their last 3, or maybe not even 2 of their last 3 to lock up home field advantage. So, you know, coaches and players are going to say every game matters. And I mean, that's true, but like the Eagles could get away with playing Gardner Minshew in this game if they really had to. I don't think Jalen Hurts has to put himself in harm's way. It's fascinating to think if the Cowboys don't completely collapse, if the Cowboys had won this game and they were 11-3, now you're thinking, oh, Jalen Hurts is either going to be not 100% or might not play. Like now, if the Cowboys can get a win against the Eagles, all of a sudden, you know, you're fighting tooth and nail over the last 2 weeks to see who's going to win the NFC East and by virtue potentially be as high as number 1 in the seeding. But obviously the Cowboys didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and so the game looks a whole lot less juicy than it did even like 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I just have a feeling they're going to look back on this game and the Green Bay game and really think about what could have been because of what the division race is now. I mean, the Eagles have such a cushion. Again, he doesn't have to play for the next 2 weeks, and they're still fine. Really, it's just you know, and it's part of the Cowboys not ever really being able to find their way. They look good, but they never seem to look great.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's even more frustrating is I would argue that they do. I mean, they've looked incredible like 2 or 3 times this year. They just haven't been able to sustain it. And yeah, I mean, they had a 14-point lead in the second half at Lambeau, couldn't hold it. Had a 17-point lead yesterday, couldn't hold it. And if you can even just scrape by and find a way to win those games, yeah, you could be talking about the Cowboys fighting to be the number 1 overall seed. And now, really, it just kind of feels like they're locked into the number 5 seed. I think things would have to go really wrong for them to be any worse than 5th, and things would have to go perfectly for them to sneak up and win the division. So, like I said, coaches and players, like they have to focus. Every game matters for them. I'm not saying they shouldn't care, but for those of us that aren't involved in the game prep, I'm just like, okay, whatever. We can probably just fast forward to the playoffs.
The Anthony Brown news you brought up and the fact that Joseph got beat twice, and then they had a guy come in, I don't remember his name, a young cornerback that came in and played.
Well, Deron Bland has played well.
No, he's been good. He's especially forcing the run.
Oh, you're talking about Nahshon, right?
Yeah. And then I think they were looking at him for a little bit too. What happens? Calvin Joseph, who we also know, we know he had his issues in the offseason, or has. Was that his last chance or what?
I mean, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch here. We know, and I mean, I think I said this last week, like the Cowboys telegraph their level of concerns based on what they do. And they went out and signed 2 veterans who have started games, Trayvon Mullen and Mackenzie Alexander. They signed them to the practice squad. I think I would hope and I would expect those guys are going to get a lot of run at practice here in the next few weeks, see how quickly they can get acclimated. And then you have a decision of, you know, are these guys a more viable option than Kelvin Joseph and Nahshon Wright? Now, the natural inclination is to say, man, anything is better than what we saw yesterday. But to my point from earlier, that's what people used to say about Anthony Brown. And I always used to joke, like, be careful what you wish for. Anthony Brown, you can think he's as terrible as you want, but he's managed to fend all of these guys off for 2 or 3 years. So what does that say about the options behind him? So, yeah, I mean, it feels very troublesome because I don't think it's magically going to get a lot better. I think if you're looking for a silver lining or if you're looking for hope, I would say getting the pass rush back on track could really help. If they can get back to their old ways of getting 3, 4, 5 sacks a game, that makes life a heck of a lot easier on your cornerbacks. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you feel good about going into the playoffs against teams that know how to move the ball with what they have at cornerback right now.
Yeah, Anthony Brown feels to me like his greatest sin in the world is not being Trayvon Diggs. I think that's what Cowboy fans are. Yeah, I mean, that's.
Well, there's a natural inclination among football. I mean, it's such a pass-happy league. Like the expectation is that all of your cornerbacks should win more often than they lose, and that's just not realistic. I mean, I guarantee you, the fan base of damn near every team in the league hates their number 2 cornerback, and like there might be 3 or 4 teams that really have a solid pair that you feel good about. Other than that, like this is just the world you live in. So I mean, I agree. I'm not saying Anthony Brown was ever a Pro Bowler or needs to be your favorite player, but he was a lot better than he usually got credit for, and I think we're kind of seeing that play out without him.
Yeah. On Odell Beckham Jr., Jerry had some interesting comments again last week. I think a lot of us are, just do it or don't at this point. David, do you think we'll actually see anything with that this week?
I mean, Jerry Jones is the only person that knows as far as I'm concerned. And I've done this long enough and I've followed the Cowboys long enough to know, like, the fact that this is still happening, it's purely a Jerry call. Like we always say, there are other people in the organization, be it Stephen Jones, be it Will McClay. There are other people in the organization that guide 95% of the decision making. And Jerry Jones, for the most part, kind of takes his hand off the wheel and lets them do their thing. But he is still the owner and the general manager. And when he wants something, he has the authority to make it happen. He doesn't do it as often as he used to, but he still can. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. I think Jerry Jones sees an opportunity to contend for a championship and sees this as a way to put himself in the best possible position. And I think he's guiding the vast majority of this. I think, the normal Cowboys operating procedure was to sign T.Y. Hilton and call it a day. But Jerry's still kind of sitting there daydreaming about, well, maybe Odell can help us make a handful of plays in the playoffs when it matters most. So I don't think there's anybody outside of like him and maybe Odell who can answer that question, but he's the reason it's still a story. And for that reason, you can't rule it out because he calls the shots at the end of the day.
David, thank you. As always, thanks for your time. David Hellman, Fox Sports, covers the Cowboys, the NFL with us on Mondays at 5:30. So the Cowboys have 3 games left. Philadelphia, they just have to win one of their last 3 and it's over, right? The way that after yesterday's loss. And so it kind of sets up. The East still has 4 teams above 500. The Giants beat Washington in a game that had a couple of just really dicey moments. The Giants 8-5-1, Cowboys 10-4, Philly now 13-1 with 3 games left to play. And the Cowboys, of those 3 or 4 games you mentioned, Paul, that they've kind of played with fire, they've won until yesterday. Giants 28-20. The Colts ended up blowing them out, but at one point, 21-19 late or maybe third quarter? And the Texans game, they got lucky there. They just flat out did. They got lucky there, and they were unlucky against Jacksonville. Philly Saturday at the Titans, at Washington, and the Washington Commanders, that game might be a playoff-type game for them to get themselves in the postseason. Paul Catalina's Top 5 next on 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
All right, top 5 transfer portal QB commitments from the weekend. Some of these are big time, but these did happen, and it shows you where the motion's going. None of the big names happened yet. I'm curious if we'll see that by Wednesday or not for National Signing Day. If you're going to commit, I think some of these guys will take their time. But the Devin Leary's, Grayson McCalls, and like that of the world have not. DJ. The couple of these though, and part of that do affect DJ a little bit. Number 5, Nick Evers to Wisconsin. This one is interesting to me, in that this guy's a 4-star prospect. We talked about him earlier. He'll certainly, at least on the surface, have a shot to win the job this year, but this is more a long-term get for Luke Fickell in Wisconsin, and not in the short term, I would think. But, this guy was a 4-star quarterback going to OU last year, so I don't know what they feel about him after a year on campus at Oklahoma, but I'm sure they would at least like to have him for depth this coming season, and he's on his way to Madison, and we'll see how that works out for him. But I still think they're going to add at least a veteran in that respect too.
I don't know, man. You can't have too many scholarships going to quarterback. Yeah. So, I'm curious. This isn't like some household name guy. He's a 4-star and all that, which is fine. He's a Florida commit at one point in time too. So plenty of recruiting people know about him. But in terms of what he's actually going to do and the timing of it, I don't know that anybody outside of Luke Fickell and his staff must know that as far as what their plans are. So yeah, it's possible they could still add a more veteran guy, but he's going to have, full handful of years to play, 4 years to play, and seems to have some great attributes. And I know there were some people in OU circles that were high on this guy, just never got close enough to seeing it actually, amount to anything in Norman, at least with Dylan Gabriel there. So this one's that, I think you can get excited about if you're a Wisconsin fan because of the potential, but like in terms of comparing him to these other guys have actually played.
And look, he wouldn't have been on this list had Drew Pine done this 2 hours before.
Yeah.
So
we just don't know much about him. We just haven't seen him play compared to a lot of these other guys.
But he is, I think, of the guys in the portal, he's the highest ranked dude after a year. That's was last year's recruiting class now in the portal. Number 4, Shadir Sanders from Colorado. I don't know if this is official yet, but like he's in the portal. He's going to Colorado. The reason I'm curious about Shadir Sanders is he's stepping into the Pac-12 right now where he'll be better than the quarterbacks that they had at Colorado. That's for sure. But assuming that he's going to go in and win games at Colorado like he did at Jackson State, or Deion's going to do that with that team, and they will get better players, that's for sure, than they have on the roster right now. The Pac-12, was a pretty darn good league this year when you have, especially if you look at the quarterbacks coming back next year in that league. The Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, probably Cam Rising, although when I did that top 5 the other day, a Utah fan said that they all thought he was going to leave, but let's just say for all intents and purposes, since he hadn't said anything, Cam Rising from the 2-time Pac-12 defending champs. Michael Penix Jr., he's coming back. Cam Ward's coming back. So Oregon State is probably going to bring in a transfer quarterback, but Goldbrinson looked pretty good in the bowl game the other day. So you've got a lot more competition on that level, and of course they know that, but Shadir Sanders of Colorado is certainly an upgrade, and we'll see what happens there, but that's a league that's now pretty deep at that position. I just ran through 7 teams, and we'll get to another one here in a second.
I watched a pretty good chunk of that game. Colorado's just been a mess, so I don't even know much about anybody on that roster, so commenting about a certain position would be me acting as if I knew, but I saw him play. Obviously, they got beat this past weekend. You wonder if that's distraction or they played somebody better.
I'm pretty sure distraction was a huge part of why they got beat, and it was, extras and all of that. But, very disappointing loss for Jackson State and for Deion to close out like that. They were not out-talented by anybody they played this year. They were clearly the more talented team, and I think the distractions definitely played into things. Shador put up really good numbers, but again, the level of competition is suspect. Compared to what he's going to be facing in the Pac-12, and of all those quarterbacks you mentioned, he's a bottom half in the Pac-12 quarterback off top. But could he result in increased quarterback play at Colorado? He'll have to, because compared to what they had, it would be nearly impossible to not be better at quarterback than what they did this past year, or better in pretty much every area of football compared to what they did this last year. So, this was a no-brainer that was going to occur with Deion taking the job, and, he's already been handed the starting job, basically. So, good luck to him. I'm excited to see him play at this level and see how that translates.
Number 3, who we had on the show earlier, Haynes King on his way to Georgia Tech. These next 2 are the guys who were really highly recruited people, their position in their recruiting class, and it's not gone the way that they wanted to at the places that they went. Hey, Haynes was on the show earlier. He's on his way to Georgia Tech. Certainly hope that works out for him and the Yellow Jackets, but this was a dude who was the most sought-after quarterback in one of the most sought-after football states in Haynes King, and it just didn't work out, in large part for him due to injuries. And then, of course, he has also intersected at a time at A&M of great tumult, we'll just call it that, in that there was so much up and down and all that I don't know if any of the 3 guys who played quarterback this year were really getting a fair shake at having the best around them or being in the best situation. And when he played it, he struggled. But so did everyone not named Devin Achane in that offense. So was it Haynes King more, or was it the scheme that has not changed through 3 different stops along the offensive coordinator / head coach's coaching tour? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we definitely will see. I'm curious, after hearing Haynes, just how quickly he gets a hold of things, and how quickly we see him out there for the Yellow Jackets. But it sounds like Brent Key, did a great job of establishing what they were going to look like and what they were going to be and what their message is to Haynes, and obviously having the interim time during the season played a role into his decision, and I'm sure into the decisions of some others as well. So that's a good start. That he's already kind of got some roots laid there. And, I don't know what the rest of their quarterback room looks like, but Haynes is just not a guy who lost talent overnight. I think it was as much the situation as anything else, and just it was bad all the way around. So, hopefully they get some guys to protect him and gain some confidence back. But he's a coach's son. I'm sure he's already put the A&M stuff behind him, and they got a good young man who's going to work hard, and he's got a good head on his shoulders and has some talent too. So, I'm very interested to see how this relationship progresses, and hopeful that it works out for both parties.
Number 2, Jeff Sims at Nebraska. This was a guy, again, highly recruited, and he had an up-and-down career at Georgia Tech. He's athletic. He can do a lot of things. He turned over the ball too much, but there was also not a really good team built around him for the last 3-4 years. So he steps into a Nebraska situation with Chubba Purdy and Casey Thompson, where there will be a quarterback competition, and we'll see what happens in the long run there. But I guess I like this one the most because I know the most about the coaching staff he's going into and what they're going to ask of him and what they're going to ask of the quarterbacks. So I do think that they can get an upgrade out of Jeff Sims. And again, it's just for a year. He is a placeholder for anywhere he goes. But for Nebraska, it's only going to be for a short time for Jeff Sims. But I do, and I mentioned this at a top 5 where I listed him early as, a guy who, if he got in the right situation, could really, spring up the charts a little bit. And so I hope that's true for Jeff Sims in Nebraska, if not just for the guy sitting to my right here.
I'm curious about Casey Thompson's status.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised they provided him some competition, but you bring in a guy like Jeff Sims, I don't think it's to sit on the bench. And I don't, again, know how much better he is unless you're just looking for something different out of your offense, which is entirely possible. And I know that, Matt Rule loves dual threat quarterbacks. And certainly with Jeff Sims, he can run around a little bit. He run for over 300 yards, I think, in every single year he's played so far. But his passing statistics are just, they're fine. And that's about as nice a way I can put it. 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this year, had a QBR of 43.3. Now, granted, he was hurt. He was dinged up, but year prior, 12-7 touchdown interception ratio. His freshman year, 13-13 touchdown to interception ratio, 54% completion percentage, 60% complete. Like last year was clearly his best. Like 2 years ago was clearly his best year. Sophomore year was clearly his best year. And then injuries hampered him to some extent. And just obviously coaching change and just not a very good team overall. So, he's got some skills, but we've seen a hot and cold version. And I wonder what version Nebraska's going to get. But there's no denying the talent level and the fact that he doesn't have to be Vince Young to win games there. He's just got to be serviceable and be smart. And so we'll see what they can do with him. But, I'm very curious of what this means for Casey Thompson.
Is Georgia Tech better at quarterback with Haynes King rather than Jeff Sims?
I don't know. I don't know. That's it.
I don't think anybody's really winning any bragging rights contests right now. This is all due respect to these guys. They're all way better at football than I'd ever be in my entire life. But just being honest about it, what we saw from Haynes wasn't great. What we saw from Jeff Sims wasn't great. There were reasons why. Both were hurt. Both had coaching issues. Both had, disappointing seasons. So I don't think it's fair to just pinpoint those guys on this year and say, this is who they are, which is why I think fresh starts will be good for both. But I do think Haynes is more of the surefire starter, I would suppose, than Jeff Sims. But I don't know what Matt Rule has in mind. Maybe this is their guy, and this is who they're rolling with. That's why I keep saying I wonder what happens with Casey Thompson. This is very intriguing.
Yeah. Number 1, Colin Schlee, who is on his way to UCLA from Kent State. He is someone who, he had two pretty good. He's got 2 years left. He's had a good run under what's his name? Sean Lewis. Is it Sean Lewis that went to Colorado? Sean Lewis that went to Colorado in that offense. And he is on his way to UCLA to play for Chip Kelly and at least be the placeholder until Dante Moore is ready. I don't know if he'll be but look, if he's doing well with Sean Lewis and he's doing okay at that level, this is the one who's most intriguing to me. Was he's jumping up a level when he's going from the group of 5 to a power 5 to a team that was really good this year and UCLA. And if Chip Kelly likes him, he's intriguing to me because Chip Kelly seems to know that position pretty well. And we'll see what happens, with what they're doing there. And I know they got the commit today, the big one, the flip, and he's, got to be ready to not have to start a true freshman right away. But this one makes a lot of sense when you see what's going on. But the big one here, to me, is not only that Bo Nix, stays at Oregon. Colin Schlee commits to UCLA, which means those are the two places I really saw DJU going. So where's DJU going to go now? Mm-hmm. Like, that even creates more intrigue to me on that, because here's a guy who was the number one player in the country a few years ago, and even though he's not lived up to all that at Clemson, his bad's not been that bad compared to like any of the guys on this list. Again, no offense, DJU's bad is better than most. So he's going to go somewhere and hopefully flourish for him, but where that's going to be, now I even have a murkier picture of it, because I thought he'd go back home to the West Coast, and it doesn't look like those opportunities are there right now.
Yeah, apparently not. And they've got other depth at quarterback, so there's going to be guys hitting the portal from UCLA's backups. Most definitely. You got three guys, and something's going to have to give there, because then you add in, more coming in, and there's going to have like 7 quarterbacks on scholarship. That makes absolutely no sense. So this was a little bit curious, and not a name that probably many people expected to be the big splash for Chip Kelly, but he's got good numbers. I mean, Kent State was obviously a good team. Deion thought enough to hire Sean Lewis, as you mentioned. So somebody that is definitely not as well known as a lot of the other names in the portal because of where he played, but did a bang-up job where he was, had a successful run, and taking a step up and into the spotlight of Los Angeles. That'll be very fun to see how Chip Kelly maneuvers this quarterback room, and clearly to see what Chip Kelly, more of what Chip Kelly obviously saw in Schlee's talents. With so many options available, this is the route he went. So that says something when you're talking about Chip Kelly and quarterbacks.
Yep, there we go. That's it. That's the list.
I didn't know much about him, but that's good. And that's like the secondary wave, Paul? Is that right? The secondary wave?
And then there's some studs still out there. I just mentioned DJU, Grayson McCall still out there, Devin Leary's still out there. So there are guys floating around that you can get. I do know probably some of this will happen after signing day. I think Ohio State has to make a decision about, if they want to roll in with guys like Devin Brown and some of the freshmen they have coming in next year, if they get in the transfer quarterback business. Look, Alabama has, 2 young guys coming in, and then Jaden Milroe next year after Bryce Young leaves. So I don't know if they'll get involved in it, but they certainly could. It wouldn't surprise me to see they want to do that. But, I'm not either going to question either of those coaches, too. Ryan Day, as much, as he's been maligned the last couple of weeks after losing to Michigan again, and Nick Saban know a lot more than I do. So,
all right, good stuff as always. Top 5 tomorrow, where I believe G.J. Kinney, the new head coach at Texas State, after they were knocked out in an absolutely phenomenal game at North Dakota State. He'll join us tomorrow. Mack Rhodes, Baylor Director of Athletics, John McClain on the NFL, among other guests that we'll have. Garrett Ross, great stuff today with Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, and Emery Winter behind the scenes. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Thanks to all of you in the chat. My chat kind of stopped and it restarted again. Hopefully I was able to answer any of the questions you may have had. Thank you very much. Also, the text line, Paxton, thanks for the image on some of UT's commits and what they did during the state championship week. I'm David Smoak. Get warm. Stay warm. We'll be back tomorrow at 3. Sports Tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel. Good night.